Welcome to LaTB, the only podcast that comes with a free Bandits bonus.
Express delivery included.
LaTB, where MMA and UFC gets silly. This is the LaTB podcast.
Welcome back. We got a heck of a show on the way. Episode 211. Here we are, UFC 238 coming out of Chicago. We got a hell of a 13-card bout coming up. Pay-per-view, tons of champs. But before we get there, before we get in all that, we got to go into the MMA-verse because there's been a ton of information coming down. A lot of money being made, a lot of fights being signed, injuries, stuff we got to catch up on before we get into that. But be sure, we got one of the heaviest duty breakdowns we've had possibly ever here at LaTB. Before all that, how have you been, Cheney, since we last met?
I'm so excited. Can you even... It hasn't been enough build-up for me to say my boo's back tonight. Tony Ferg's going to be on the card. Doesn't it feel like it's just too quick? I
agree. I keep forgetting about the Pettis fight being 7 months ago. I'm like, oh, he's been out for like 3 years.
That's how I feel. Like I haven't seen him in forever. But it's like, okay, 3 months until he fights. That's usually how we know Tony's going to fight. We have this huge, long build-up. And this time, between him and Cowboy, it's been like 4 weeks. I feel like I'm on short notice. I'm like, how am I going to make weight? But I'm so excited about it.
It is a really, really exciting fight. God, the lines have been moving everywhere. The pay-per-view, if you're following along at Zol tonight, you're already getting some free bets out there because I know the line's going to get closer. Be sure to check that out. Follow at Weakneck Baby, at Lesbo and the Beans, where you're going to currently follow us on Twitter. Also on Instagram, at LaTBMMA. If you want to get some of these cool gifts and see where it's coming from, we'll post up a lot of this stuff. And, we're definitely turning it up here in the studio. Feel like most of our listeners, that's where we tend to make our money, but we're really starting to move into that YouTube world or just video world. See where that gets us, but...
You been watching anything good? Before, I know it's heavy, everyone.
It's heavy. Well, a lot of a lot of tape.
Fight stuff?
Yeah, tons of fight stuff. We got embeddeds coming out. We got countdowns.
I've been doing the same.
Those, as far as new things to watch.
Do you know what I feel about this fight card? Every time I look at it, there's so many levels to it.
Exactly.
Every time I look, there's a fight that I can't believe I didn't remember was on it.
I totally agree, because I only want to think of the 3 top ones we have here profiled on the graphics behind us, but... the rest of the card is stacked. I mean, there's one debut fighter. There is 26 fighters that have either held a belt or been contenders for a belt. That's the most ever. The previous before was, I believe, 18 fighters on one card. So 26 fighters that have had some sort of belt touching in their career. That's high-level MMA.
In my watching of UFC, what I've seen in my lifetime of my Ronda Rousey, like starting to watch back in Ronda Rousey's days.
When I was a kid.
For hardcores, it's not even.
In WMMA, that is like 25 years, though.
That is pretty close. That is pretty close.
Just saying.
Tony Ferguson and Cowboy are the GOATs of my era. Like, I know everybody says John Jones and Mighty Mouse, but, they did things. They both cleared out their divisions. I just didn't get to... I watched some of those fights in my up, but not there. Everyone's like, oh, WEC, you don't even know fraud. You don't even... Yeah, when people start saying that stuff, I don't know. So, and the Johnny Bones Jones, for me, has just been riddled. He's hit more pregnant ladies than he's had fights. He has had a good amount of fights in that time. He's had like 6 fights.
He's hit a lot of pregnant. To be fair, he's hit a lot of pregnant ladies though.
Yeah, but he's always in trouble. So for Tony Ferguson and Cowboy Cerrone to be meeting, it's really unfathomable to me.
I mean, it's not a fight that I knew I wanted.
Unfathomable.
Sure. It's not a fight I knew I wanted, but when it came about, I was like, yes, please, I'll have some more of that. Then throw on a little bit of Chev in there. Woo! Get my whistle wet just talking about it. It has been such great tape study all the way around, just, again... tons of depth.
So you're saying that we won't even do it to our fans and we'll actually just get right into fight talk and won't even go through like, I've been watching uptakes on Westworld to get myself back.
Well, I've been binging shows a lot where even I feel like real-time aired shows, that is RuPaul's Drag Race season 11, get into that. I'm just saying I'm halfway through right now. I just finished, but I tend to binge them. I'll watch 3 or 4 episodes in a day.
I'm just saying, my show that we've been binge watching any free second, or when we've been watching TV, has been Succession.
Haven't heard of it.
A show about a dude, which what I gather is it's kind of like a Disney or an ABC conglomerate. Like he's some multimedia mega billionaire, and he's like 80, and he has his children, and he's stepping down from his company, and they're all vying for the spot of the leader.
Isn't that Greek story, Zeus and all that?
Even their names, like one of their names is Shiv, one of their names is Roman. One of them's
cocaine.
Yeah, so it's a good show. If you like political shows like Billions, I would compare it to Billions.
Is it like House of Cards?
It's like financial and political. It's wordy. I like wordy shows like that.
That's not me. Give me action or even the dimensions of a lady, and I'm good.
Any dimension of a lady.
Exactly. Doesn't have to be Drew. That's
why, we have totally different viewpoints, but it's going to be so good. Or anyways, we can get into it. There's enough fight talk going on.
Definitely.
I'll stop holding it up, everyone.
Definitely enough fight talk to go into it. We have had some bouts that have recently been signed, but before we get into those, we have an injury report. Anthony Smith coming off of a hand injury. He said he broke his hand in the first round, he thought. Then it came out in the second, and he's like, yeah, it was this punch. But he was still able to defeat Alexander Gustafsson with, this isn't a Kamaru Usman type of a break. Like, you can see the x-ray. You've seen the x-ray, and there's actually been other footage, graphic shots that you did not put out, where it shows the doctor opening, and you can see the brace. It looks like he went to Home Depot, and they drilled in one of those metal slats with screws. It's gnarly. But
he said it was the worst hand injury he's ever had.
He's broken his hands about 6 times, and he said this one by far has been the most painful, and it is. You can see that fracture right in this area. It is, not even attached. And Lionheart doesn't even begin to come close to the nickname now. That is the heart of a lion.
Do you think he gets the respect yet? Everybody's hating on Lionheart. Nobody gives him respect. Come on, man. This guy, why can't he be one of the best in the world? Why can't he be one of the best in the world?
It's because his record, he's a 500 fighter. And him being a 500 fighter is why the GOAT, Artem Lobov, will never be recognized as the greatest of all time.
You know what? This is what I have to say about even the 500 fighter thing. If you've been fighting at the highest levels for that long, you might be a 500 fighter and still amazing. It's like my Golden Tee, I've been playing with the same card, the same character since the beginning of my game. So all my trash garbage games of learning how to play are still in my average. A lot of players don't do that. They start a card, and some people with their professional career, we get this fresh, clean, we don't know about, people are like, Khabib's record, and then people are like, oh, look at him getting knocked out here, look at him lose here, and you're like, wait, where's that at? Oh, that's before, it doesn't count on this. Oh, okay. So, I don't know. I feel like give Anthony Smith some respect. He has a big old record, but that's a lot of experience. I love Anthony Smith.
I agree. He's grown on me a lot since this last
Other
run.
Arm things, which I'm like, come on with it. PVZ's arm, 3rd surgery she has to go in for.
Interesting. I did not hear about this. So the arm she broke in a spin, luckily PVZ's been able to also get in some photo shoots. You like that lady figure she's been showing out lately, wearing all them. You can see the strings that have been holding her arm together, and they don't look that strong. Boom! On it today. Get it. I took my on it. Took my.
That's not a sponsor.
Got my mushroom.
My alpha brain.
Got my alpha brain because she out in the nether regions of Uranus are freaking.
And then the other thing in the injuries and recoveries is Santiago Ponzinibbio. He's recovering in the emergency room because he got a bacterial blood infection.
Damn, him and Volkanovski.
Yeah, nasty, apparently.
Where is his located? Do you know specifically?
I have no idea.
Interesting, because I know Volk almost lost his foot, or at least it could have been in jeopardy due to those blood infections. It depends on where it localizes, and of course, the most danger there is that infection moves into the bloodstream and then goes to your heart. And then that's very, very dangerous. Hopefully he gets it taken care of, because speaking of booze, that's my boo. I need to see him in there. Need to get that boy in there. How long has it been since
I
we've seen
agree.
Pons?
I think he is definitely the most slept on guy in the division, but maybe not slept on in a way like Usman. You know,
He's
like
avoided.
yes, he's ducked.
Exactly. Ducking season's open with Pons. So if you haven't heard...
Somebody's injected him with bacteria so they don't...
If you haven't heard, supposedly Yoel Romero is not the highest paid athlete in the UFC. Apparently, it is Khabib Nurmagomedov. Khabib, the Screaming Eagle himself, coming in with Ali Abdelaziz and saying that he recently signed a new contract and is now getting dollar bills. He also recently signed a bout with DP Diamond.
Speaking of name things real fast,
please.
I can't say Ali Abdelaziz unless I say it all together.
Please, go for it.
I don't know if I can say Abdelaziz.
Ali Abdelaziz.
No,
And that's
say his last name now.
Abdelaziz.
Doesn't it feel weird? The other name, a person I will admit right now that I struggle with, and I can only say it if I say it together, Ali Aquinta. Because I read it in my head when I say it, and that weird I, the way it splits off with that, I have to say it all as one word. So the Khabib Nurmagomedov, I can say it as long as I'm not reading it. All the Polish names, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, Shevchenko, Nurmagomedov, any of these Far Eastern or Eastern European kind of names, I struggle reading, but if I don't look at them, I can say them now.
I totally agree, and I ended up catching it on the side of my eye. That's what messed me up.
Don't do it.
It's the ones you don't see coming. So, you actually were filling me in in a bit on this. I didn't understand about the contractual obligation that Khabib has with GSP in his contract.
No, it's not a contractual obligation. It's whatever high number he is right now getting paid under his new contract. Which is interesting you brought up Yoel, because isn't that also Ali?
No, that's the Kawa brothers.
Oh, okay. Which you were talking about a few weeks ago. If he fights GSP, he gets to renegotiate.
Interesting. That's the clause.
Yeah.
So he foresees that GSP might come in to try to get at that strap at 155. Then he'll be the triple champ. I mean, the greatest goat of the goatiest goats of ever, GSP.
Well, I mean, yeah, if Khabib can get past Diamond.
Again, the odds came out for that. Khabib being a 3-1 favorite, essentially.
In my opinion, you're overlooking the Diamond.
Yeah, way overlooking the Diamond. Definitely Southpaws have been the trickiest fighters that Khabib's fought to date. They've landed the hardest shots, and Diamond lands harder than pretty much anyone out there. I completely agree. The line's off. I mean, I'm not going to...
Get your money in now, then.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was about to say. I could see money coming in both ways. I'm not going to give a straight-up pick, but I am putting money on DP because that line's only going to shrink. That's not going to get wider. And if it does, that's criminal. And you should just keep putting money on DP because, again, way, way closer of a fight.
Yeah, isn't that... crazy stuff. And then, let's see, I think the last news article is that if you look at it, and I can pull up the whole card and read off some of the fights to you, that frickin' UFC San Antonio card is thick.
It's starting to get thick. Oh, yeah.
It's thick.
If it's gravy, it's that white gravy. You ain't seeing through it.
I know. I'm going to pull it up right now somewhere. I've been looking at it. I was trying to figure out a way to take a picture to put it on here, but I'm just like, it's too good. I can't fit it all in one place.
Well, a fight that was recently put on that San Antonio card, we have Daniel, the Hangman Hooker, coming in against James Vick, the Texecutioner himself. Both of these guys coming off of losses. Hooker, a little bit worse of a loss. I guess Vick got straight up cold cocked by Gaethje. Has he come back and won a fight since then? Either way, Daniel Hooker just came off of a brutal beating off Edson Barbosa, standing TKO. Tough man, but we're going to really get to see in this young man's career how he does after taking a devastating loss. He's lost before, but never really in that fashion. It was one of the few times that a lot of us were like, whoa.
I thought it was interesting because they were both two Lesbo and the Bean favorites. Like two LaTB favorites.
It's such a fun fight.
Gosh, they don't just have a list somewhere. Look into it, people. It's like Eddie Bravo. Look, look into it. UFC San Antonio looks like a really thick card. But I guess speaking of thick cards, unless you have something else to say.
I was going to say, I think, is that headlined right now by the ladies?
The headline's like Montefiore versus somebody.
Yeah,
where it's like, no. That's also the card with, we already broke it on the show, the Kraken versus Greg Hardy.
Correct.
It's also the card, it's all coming back to me. No, I don't remember, but it's really a good card. But the Montefiore is headlining it with Cucuy, or
It's not Montefiore.
it changed though. I think Greg Hardy, Juan Adams is headlining now. But I could be wrong.
No, either way, we'll get into all of those fun fight cards as they come about. We'll be able to really get into them.
And if I have a fan that tells me, oh, just Google it, I did.
We come prepared. If you haven't seen, we've been really coming at it lately. Just to like and subscribe.
Prepared. More prepared than our oldest shows where we were just like, let's see what we can find while we're on air.
Definitely. And life takes you in all sorts of certain ways, but definitely if you're not liking and subscribing, that's all we ask from here. We don't do paid bets. They're all free information. The tape study's free.
And we only say gamble for fun. This is all fun information.
The truth.
We're not trying to get on any kind of kooky algorithm.
We ain't trying to pay our rent.
Speaking of, I don't have any kind of gift for that, but you were also telling me about some weird algorithm stuff going on YouTube for anyone that might be DraftKinging videoed.
Well, anyone else out there, predictors out there or anything, if you're tagging DraftKings or any gambling as far as your YouTube information, you were getting pulled, and that's why there is demonetization happening for all sorts of bettors, because YouTube seems to deem that sports betting is immoral and illegal. And wow, YouTube, I can see boobs whenever I want on YouTube. Get out of here with all your moral stuff, or fully naked people. So I don't know. It's interesting how they get to choose, but the whole demonetization platform's going on all the way around. It's just for YouTube
like
to get rich.
Olenek, Curtis Blades, Rothwell, Arlovsky, Pennington versus
Aldana?
maybe.
That's Aldana.
Yeah. So, anyways, I found that while you were also filling in that extra information.
For YouTube, in case you're going to post stuff, don't put any betting info in there. Hey, it's all fun. If you do have a betting problem, call a hotline. They're going to help you out. Don't keep listening from here, because we going to get deep. We're going to have some free bets. We're going to have some underdogs. We're going to make money.
You're gonna trigger some people. If you do have a betting problem, you about to be triggered.
Yeah.
You about to be triggered.
Spoiler alert. So, UFC 238 coming out of Chicago. It is a pay-per-view. It is worth every penny. We don't always say buy it. We don't tell you to illegally stream either, allegedly. But
unlike
we're saying,
some people we know.
Snitch, the golden snitch apparently. So, this is a 13-card bout. It's gonna end up the 3 bouts. I mean, it's headline Marlon Moraes versus Henry Cejudo. Then we have Shevchenko coming in against the pink eye. And then before all that, it's T-Ferg versus Cowboy. But we always start from the bottom to the top, and it's gonna be with a couple of veterans. We're starting off the entire night with JoJo Calderwood coming out of that SBG gym. She's been in the States for a while. TriStar. Now she's over at, I believe, Syndicate or Oyama. Either way, she's coming in against Caitlin Chukagian. Really interesting placement for this fight for me, because both of these are at the top of the echelon at 125 pounds. It's been pretty much said that the winner of this fight is the next contender, and they're opening the bout.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad. I feel the exact same way. And I'm glad you said it. And I thought Calderwood's my girlfriend.
We got a lot.
So I didn't know if I was totally having confirmation bias. But Chukagian's come in hot and her entire time in the UFC, even though it's been a little short career. It's been against some of the biggest stars in the division. So I totally agree. And I didn't know if I was also being like lady bias. But I'm like, damn, you know what? There's some fire fights on this whole entire card. But this deserves to be up there with me. I'm not necessarily saying main card.
Sure.
But
agreed.
high prelims.
Not the debut.
Not
the
debut.
Not debut. Not the initial fight of the night. Not the first
horrible.
one.
It's
It is. But that's how deep
Where is
talent
this
we
taking
have.
place?
Chicago.
I'm getting there early. If this is the car, I'm getting there early regardless of who's fighting. But I can't imagine.
Yeah, there's
silly.
We wouldn't miss any bouts either way on a ESPN Plus card, let alone a pay-per-view.
Name should be The Voice.
Because she's so subdued in there with that 13-3 record. She's coming off of a 2-fight winning streak. JoJo is well-rounded everywhere. We've said it here multiple times. It's her head. If her head is out of the game, she is definitely someone that you can't be betting on. But the last 2 fights in a row, she has moved at her new gym and has been dating her head coach, and that hasn't changed yet. So far, she's still in the green. She's still moving positively forward. Someone that you don't have to worry about as much. But on the ground, she really has avenues to be able to exploit Chukagian, who holds above a 60% takedown defense rate. She can't get taken down. It's just hard. The blonde fighter herself comes in from the all-star team. She is a former title contender, being 11-2, only losing in the UFC. She's only lost to Liz the Gorilla Carmouche, had a 3-fight winning streak, and then lost to the Evil Eye in a split decision, her last fight 5 months ago. That was a controversial fight. Could have went either way, but the takedowns really ended up losing it for the blonde fighter. She really likes to stay at range. We've said it before here multiple times. She'll scream you to death. She will knock you out if you were standing a foot in front of her. She kind of feints that and throws 3 punches to maybe land 1. So as far as her volume, she throws a lot of strikes, but her actual average of landed strikes is a little bit lower than Calderwood. So I feel like Calderwood has a slight heavier strike advantage. And on the ground, definitely Calderwood will throw the more takedowns out of the 2, and she actually has a pretty good takedown rate. She likes to step behind that knee and trip over to the side. And on the ground, even off of her back, JoJo's a really tough fighter to get around. So if the game plan is here for anything, it's JoJo, go for the takedown, beat her up with elbows, and submit her out of there. I see a clear path. It's still a close one. I think the line's off. It's -115, -1, or -110, -110. I actually think it should be more like -140 for JoJo. I got an easy favorite here. I'm going to play this one because we have enough background with both of these ladies. We tend to stay away the first fight of the night, but this isn't that type of a card. This isn't freaking a lot of these other early ESPN fights. Both of these fighters are contenders and are going to be in contention after this fight. The winner is. The loser still has a ranking in the 125-pound division. I got submission, round number 3, JoJo Calderwood. Who do you have in this fight and why?
The level of experience with JoJo is still so much more than me, even though Caitlin's been in there with some of the beastiest beasts. It's just weird how long JoJo's reign is. She's one of the few people that has been in there since Jessica I. You know, she's one of the few girls that has this longevity in the sport that it kind of... Did we also see her fight unnaturally at the 135? Was JoJo one of those girls?
I don't think she has. Or JoJo?
Yeah.
No. She was at 15. And she moved
lower?
up. Yeah, she
okay.
moved up.
Okay. Caitlin, I just never been a huge fan, and the best thing she's done in there is her split decision loss with Jessica I to me, but I think that says a lot about who they both kind of are as fighters, and I just think they're late to the game, or I think JoJo's been on it longer. I don't know. I think that the lines are kind of right on this, and I want to get high on JoJo, but I just think both girls could stifle the other. I hope the takedown defense is there, but Caitlin's kind of long and lanky, so she does have that good sprawl that she could be hard the first round or two that take away some of those points that we usually rely on with JoJo to get her up to the 70-point bracket. I love JoJo. I also agree with you that they have enough experience that you can bet this isn't a first fight of the night. We might get that title later on. Treat this like the first fight of the night. But both these ladies don't have shitty output for their price. I don't know what they are on DraftKings.
8,100 against 8,100. This is a dirty-ass split all the way around as far as the odds have it.
Yeah, I think it could be a split. I think it could be I think it could be that first fight of the night, kind of unmemorable 50 point. That it's like, not that it deserves to be there by name or even skill level, but that they kind of stifle each other like licked fingers on a match tip. Like,
It just kind of nullifies and turns into a very low scoring.
Yeah. And then, like, nothing's happening where you're like, oh, you know.
That's where I see JoJo eventually getting it down. I see that trip takedown coming in and that game plan because blonde fighter will stay on the outside.
I'm just not a fan of Caitlin Chukagian. Still
Agreed.
not. And I like JoJo a lot. And I have seen her game progress and get better. And even get better not just from the beginning, obviously, of her career, but get better in the last 3 fights. I've watched her become a more complete fighter, whereas I see Caitlin doing more of the same. She's like the boring Holly Holmes. The poor man's Holly Holmes. That shit. Sorry.
So I'm going to probably do, out of the 2 on DraftKings, they're both the exact same price. I'm going to probably do like 30% Calderwood, no Chukagian at all for me.
I like that.
Moving on to 135 pounds, we have a bantamweight fight between Eddie Wineland coming in against the only debuting fighter of the night. We have Gregory Povo. Povo's coming out of the Russian scene. He's fighting out of Uriah Sports. The Russian fighter is 14-2. His background, he's gotten a lot of finishes, a good amount of decisions in there, but he's fighting fighters that are 9-8 or 5-3 or 3-0. Not a lot of depth in there, not a lot of competition. Some of the fights I did end up catching on this young man, he likes to get after it. He gets in your face. He's got fundamentally a good all-around game. His ground and pound is probably his best attribute, but he really likes to mix it up striking in there. He has a very linear approach, so linear that when he comes in, he ducks his head and really catches a lot of his opponents with a headbutt. Saw it on probably 2 of his fights where The Rock came after he headbutted him and then landed the right, where I'm like, that was 2 punches, but they in Russia, they don't care. Even the UFC doesn't call a lot of these headbutts a lot of the time. So this is a fighter that I'm just saying, look out for that. He does lean with his head if you're his opponent, but he has a serviceable gas tank on the ground. He's beating journey level guys. Eddie Wineland has been a firefighter for a long time. He's still a firefighter. He wrestled, grew up wrestling. He's 23-13, had a long career. One of the most devastating knockouts of the year a while against debuting Eduardo, where he had his mouth wired shut for 8 months. Came back, got a 2-fight winning streak against Zanes Mizugaki, and then ended up last losing to John Dodson in a decision 2 years ago. And then as of late, losing to Alejandro Perez 10 months ago. People were worried about Eddie Wineland's chin. I was one of those guys. But if you're able to take John Dodson's shot at any point of John Dodson's career, your chin's fine. Your chin's going to be good. There's the RDA route as well, where your chin actually gets better when you get it wired shut, because now you got metal all up in there potentially, so they say. But either way, Wineland uses his wrestling in reverse. He'll scramble on the ground if he needs to, uses his takedown defense well, but he really likes to fall back on that right hand. He actually throws a good straight right in there, okay jab, but he's limited to 2-punch combinations and just is more reactionary on his grappling exchanges. On the ground, he tends to be more of the position over submission guy, so don't really see the submission coming. See this turning into a point fight. Wineland, 34 years old, looks a little more weathered than he should be, but he's been beating a lot higher competition and losing to a lot higher competition. I'd still put Perez or Dodson over Povo, but there's something to be said for the young 35-year-old coming out of Russia. So he's going to want it. He might not pop until after this fight.
Russia, 35 might be 17. We don't know.
Truth. Usually it goes the other way, though. Usually he's like 46. He's like, yeah, 35. Yeah. But, I'm going to go with Wineland decision. I'm actually going to be a little bit tentative here. I don't think it's a high score like I'm saying. I think
is this
it
the
turns
first
into a
fight of the
striking
night already?
This should be. This is the one that should be.
I just think they could be swapped and I'd be happier.
I totally agree.
Even just Pop, no offense to him at all, but I just think the rules stick with what you know here with Wineland. A guy pushed at UFC levels with a guy that's as full of action as Eddie Wineland. Popov's going to be gassed. We were just talking about those padded records earlier. This is one of those padded records. How would a commission even allow a guy with 9-2 to fight a guy with 0-0? This is kind of, it's a 35-year-old Russian with a 14-2 professional record, and they're all against 0-0s and 2-1-1s. Eddie Wineland, he's seasoned. He's like that good meat. You open up the grill in the summertime.
Title contender.
You only need to throw it on for a second. You don't even need to shut the lid. The flames, that's how Eddie Wineland comes hot out the gate. I might not stay away from this, though. I might only put it on a few, but is he really high ranked? How much is Eddie Wineland in this?
Eddie Wineland is ended up going to be costing you on DraftKings $8,200 against
To me, that's worth it. He comes out so hot.
Right.
How many points is he worth? Usually,
well, his average, he
yeah.
averages 50 points, but he's got a couple finishes in there. And then those last two decisions were, again, fairly striking heavy. But for 8-2, I agree with that. The play out of both fighters for me would be Wineland as well, but it's
he is an
low.
emotional fighter. That's the bad thing about Eddie Wineland in my head. I feel like he gets injured or struck right or something or head butted, like you're saying, and becomes so emotional, and he just...
Is that Cody Garbrandt?
Yeah, it almost gets like that similar kind of style. I think that is not like they have the same fight style, but that same kind of emotional
mentality.
drain. Yeah, I think that's a great comparison. That's where I get nervous with Eddie Wineland more than his chin.
I agree. That's why I'm saying a little tentative
I
on
agree.
this one.
I like that. I think less than JoJo.
Agreed. 8,000 for Pavlov on DraftKings in case we didn't get that in there. On the actual betting lines, minus 125 slight favorite. Wineland against minus 105. Close lines throughout the night for a reason. That just makes it that much funner for us. Here, going to be able to string some parlays and stuff.
Or this next fight could have been the first one of the night for me. It could have gone 1, 2, and then JoJo. Not because this next fight's not going to be a banger, but just because it's like they haven't earned it yet. There has to... And that's where I'm old school, where I don't like that Juan Adams and Greg Hardy are headlining an event.
I agree with that.
Neither of them have earned it, and what's going to happen is in my two big guys laying against each other for 10 minutes after 5 minutes of like
maybe not
anyone
so.
to get knocked out. I don't know. Anytime I feel like people are like, nothing boring could happen in this fight.
Derek Lewis Ngannou.
Yeah.
I almost think we guaranteed that to not go to the distance.
Yeah, we all put that bad in it. We all put that bad energy. Anyway.
So the next one you were alluding to was at 185 pounds with Darren the Dentist Stewart coming in against Bevan Lewis. Bevan Lewis debuting recently in the UFC. Stewart, though, has had a couple fights. That's where I'm like, I don't feel like it's that unjustified. Other than that first fight, they were title contenders where these guys haven't even come close to getting in those ranks yet. So maybe you do have a point there. But we've had the Dentist get submitted in there a few times. He's a 9-4 record coming out of
just because
England.
you were like title contenders, and I'm like, you're right on that. 2 title contenders against 2 guys that aren't even in the crawl. Not even their name's not even going to be mentioned for another 2 years.
It's not even in the rankings.
Like,
Exactly. So with these guys, again, Darren Stewart, the Dentist, has come in with a spotty record. 9-4, lost 3 of those in the UFC. Last coming off of a loss 6 months ago to Edmund Shabazian, coming out of that Tarvarian system. The slight underdog there. It's been a constant theme for the Dentist Stewart. He can get outground. His gas tank is a little suspect in the end, but as far as the Dentist, yeah, he's put some guys out. Lights out hard. Eric Spicely being one of those guys. The other one being Charles Bird. The Dentist has power in there. Has a straight right that usually gets it done in there. A good hook. His leg attack isn't that well, but he mainly sticks to boxing in there. And his takedown defense isn't necessarily the best. So against wrestlers or ground-centric guys that actually have good entries, the Dentist is someone to play against. And that isn't necessarily this fight. Mm-hmm. Bevan Lewis is coming in with a 6-1 record. He ended up debuting in the Contender Series, getting a TKO, had all sorts of hype, was a big favorite against Uriah Hall 5 months ago and ended up getting finished in the 3rd round. And this was all that veteranship that we talk about. Uriah Hall was almost getting 10-8'd in there, I believe, in that 2nd round. Bevan Lewis picking Uriah Hall apart. Uriah Hall looked shot. I mean, Uriah Hall was walking papers, signed, done, and all of a sudden, Bevan Lewis...
He licked the stamp, for you kids out there that don't know what stamps are. These little pieces of paper we had to buy for change, and if you don't know what change is, it's this. Never mind, go on, sorry.
So, with Bevan, great striker, good Muay Thai, tons of power, but gas tank also tends to be an issue. He's coming out of that Jackson Wink gym. He's a big favorite again in here. They're both 28 years old, but the amount of volume he threw out against Hall was his biggest enemy. And in this fight, I don't think that Darren Stewart can necessarily do that. Stewart does have power into the 3rd round, but he slows down dramatically where Uriah Hall can still have that fast twitch karate muscle. I don't see Lewis getting there. Lewis really starts to... Stewart really starts to plot in there as it goes on. And that same could be said for Lewis, but I think that Lewis wins the first 2 rounds, maybe loses the third. I'm going to end up thinking this goes to the decision. I think they're both tough enough to stay in there. I got a decision. I'm going to probably be a little tentative on here. Either one of these guys can finish, so I think that you can potentially put either one on DraftKings because that's going to be this type of night. You got to go crazy everywhere. These lines are all so close, and there's such volatility in the matches that I think you could spread either one of these guys, but it's going to be in that 20 and 10% type of range on my DraftKings. Who do you have in this fight and why? I got Lewis decision.
This is a fight that could ruin your night. Don't go heavy on either guy. I agree. The best thing that Bevan Lewis has going for him, in my opinion, is his camp, Jackson Wink. Other than that, his record's kind of padded with me, and the guys that he's beating are the same 1-1 record, 0-0 record. Darren Stewart, even though it's just the likes of Charles Byrd and Eric Spicely, like the lowest level of the UFC, going to decision with Edmund isn't bad to me at all. I really like Edmund Shabazian. I kind of feel like he's of the... who's your Nardiev?
Oh yeah.
Like in
no, he
range,
is. He really is.
I really love the Golden Boy. I think he's one to watch. I think he's somebody we're gonna be talking about really heavily in the mix. So losing to him is
it'll look
better than getting
on.
knocked out by an old ass Uriah Hall.
Woo.
Like, Uriah Hall just looks beat to me. I keep waiting for him to retire every fight. He looked like shit in his last fight. He got picked apart by Bevan Lewis, but Bevan Lewis just hasn't shown me enough. And the sad part is beating Darren Stewart, even if he does, I don't know if it'll be showing me enough either. Like, he really, I don't know. This is a weird fight for me. I got Stewart KO round 2. I think he has more power here, and if Uriah Hall found it and is his exhausted level in round 3, even though it's veteranship, like, Uriah Hall's old. He's old for the UFC. He's 103 in UFC-H. Like, I love him. I understand it's all veteranship, but I just think that Dennis has a better shot here than it looks like everybody else thinks. It looks like everybody's super heavy Bevan Lewis, and I can't understand why. Like, I don't understand what I'm not seeing, because the best thing that you said that I agree with is that Darren Stewart is in the most amount of danger if somebody's going to take him down.
Yes.
And that's not Bevan Lewis. So that makes me nervous. And 5 months ago, you just got knocked out after a brutal war with somebody.
And it was one of those knockouts that it took him a good over 2 minutes to get up. Like, he was out. It was not, if you look back at that, I was watching that, and Uriah Hall was getting his hand raised without Bevan around there. That it was gnarly finish. And it was really that gas tank that did it to him. But high output for him in that fight.
You got Stewart KO round 2, but I don't know. What's the prices? What am I looking at?
So, you're going to end up having the underdog at plus 185 for Stewart against the minus 240 for Bevan Lewis. 9,000 on DraftKings for the favorite against 7,200. I have a decision, Lewis. So there's no way for that 9-2 I'm going to be playing him there. I agree with you. I think Stewart's the play there as far as DraftKings if you're going to play a guy.
Yeah, I just think maybe a little pepper, like 20% Stewart, and then I won't be playing Bevan Lewis anywhere.
I can see that.
Date fight.
Definitely an interesting one. Definitely one that is going to be volatile.
This is such a good fight night. I don't even know if that one will be memorable.
I totally agree, and that's where I'm like, I keep wanting to wait to get to the next one.
I know, I'm shitty. See, I think this next fight that we're about to talk about could have been the first fight. Another one that could have been the first fight over Chukagian versus... Gosh, am I the worst biased person for that? Not even because I think it's going to be the most exciting fight in the world. I just think both fighters, like...
At 115 pounds, we have Yoksan Yan against Angela Hill. Hill's coming in, turning right around with a 9-6 record. She just ended up fighting 5 weeks ago, beating Jodie Escobar in a decision where she was a humongous favorite. She was a minus 600 and could not finish Jodie Escobar. So it's just something that I think is reflecting as far as these lines and what's going on right now is we know what we're getting with Angela Hill. It's her second time around in the UFC. She came off of the show. She's a Muay Thai fighter with still developing takedown defense and a better gas tank. We were seeing the growth in her striking and takedown defense, but even then, that seemed to cap. When she came back into the UFC, she had tightened up some of that area, but she's falling back into that initial UFC run for me where she's like, okay, I'm just a Muay Thai striker, not throwing in any takedowns, I'm just going to pick you apart, and eventually these girls start to gain on me. The output for Angela Hill's always been pretty good, but she tends to have trouble when ladies get in her face, and Yan is exactly that. She is a Chinese fighter. I know she's been over at Jackson Wink as well. She says Extreme Sada out of China, but I know she's been over there with Wink. She's 10-1, only getting a cut that was turned over. She won a decision 6 months ago against Kondo. Prior to that, she beat Pereira in a decision, also beaten Caitlin Kern, who's no longer in the UFC. Yan's come out with one of the highest outputs out there. She throws 5-6 punch combinations from the first to the third round. Kia's a lot, keeps her head a little bit straight up, but her aggression really muffles a lot of her opponents. They just can never seem to get a shot off because she's so in their face. And it's a good tactic, but against an extremely good counter striker, I feel like she's going to really start to have issues there. And Angela Hill's that type of counter striker. It's just that stylistically, Angela Hill has notoriously been flustered when Gedalia's, when people just get in her face. And that's Yan 101. On the ground, Hill isn't that good, and we haven't seen much of Yan there as well. So that's a coin flip on the ground for me. I can't really tell you who is, because I've multiple times said, oh, Hill's good on the ground, and then I see the sloppiest reversal on her, and I'm like, never mind. Never mind. So can't really fall on that. This is probably my heaviest stay away of the night. Yan is a slight favorite at minus 190. I got her with just volume, but I don't see a finish coming out here. It's hard to get Hill out of there, but she eventually just kind of turns into a punching bag, or a speed bag, I guess. I think it's Yan decision. This is a low score for me. This is a flat stay away on DraftKings. I don't see value for either fighter here. Who do you have and why?
Oh, Angela Hill. My a back and forth with you, and you never show up when I need you to. And I feel like you've reached your high water mark as far as UFC talent, where we've seen Yan come in and kind of, She like sat at the table and put her elbows down and just made some room for herself. And I like what I'm seeing from her. She's that stand-up specialist that has a pretty good takedown defense that I haven't had to worry so much. That'll be an interesting spot when we get her into those realms of the Gedalias and those kind of ground specialist women in this division. But Angela Hill just never shows up. So I just don't think she goes any higher, and this is Yan's game to win. That punching bag thing, I see it a little different than you. I think Yan's out of all trouble here. I don't see her in any kind of danger, and so I just think it's a way for her skill and technique to explode. And unfortunately for Hill, she's the type of woman that can take a lot of punishment and just get beat up for 15 minutes, and that's what you kind of need to make points and make money here. So low risk, medium reward is Yan on this card for 9-1. I see her getting like 80 points, but Hill can take enough of a beating, and I actually see that Yan could reversal enough to even turn a takedown to her advantage and maybe land one. I don't see her finishing, but I do see her getting the clean decision 2 rounds or all 3. Angela's just not showing up anymore, and she's fighting like it's her workout camp. Once a month she's coming out. And I think Yan's that next level opponent that seems to be growing and taking the time between every match. I got Yan decision here. I will play her on a few even for that 9-1 price.
Wow. On DraftKings, the slight favorite, minus 190. Yan is coming in at 9,100 against underdog, plus 150. Angela Hill at 7,100. Out of the two, Yan is the play there. But again, it's that 10% type of ownership for me as far as Yan's concerned. 0 as far as Angela Hill's concerned.
I do a little more than that, but it's a safety play more than, I do not see her breaking 100.
I agree.
9-1, we always say you got to break 100, but usually with those 9s, there's that chance that they could lose. I don't see a chance for Yan to lose here. It's like
I agree.
Low risk for 9-1. So it definitely isn't going to be on a first place card. Like if you're shooting for the hole, you ain't going in the cup. You ain't getting the hole in one on this, but you may get a good eagle.
You've been watching those Evil Eye promos, huh? She's talking about all those holes and how you might fall into them.
No.
Oh, we're going to get there.
Never mind, I ain't going to tell you.
So, at 145 pounds, we have a featherweight bout between longtime veteran Ricardo Lamas coming in against Calvin Kattar. This is a profile fight for me. This is one that's just longtime veteran against up-and-coming prospect. At 19-3, Kattar is 31 years old. Only lost once in the UFC to Renato Moicano in a decision. Prior to that, knocking out Shane Burgos, beating Andre Touchy-Feely in a decision. And then as of late, knocking out Chris Fishgold. Fishy himself, we just saw this weekend, get submitted as well. So maybe not as big of a win as we initially thought there for Kattar, but counter striker, hell of traps he sets up, powerful, great takedown defense, strong hips on Kattar. On the ground, you can just see when he's gotten in there with a lot of these guys, Feely and all these other guys, you can just see that his strength ends up really adding up as the fight, and his fight IQ is pretty spot on in there. But Kattar's one of these guys that tend to back off a little bit once I keep hearing that he owns a gym, he's a manager, he has a job, and is a UFC fighter. It's just, he's got a lot going on. And yeah, it'll work against Chris Fishgold.
Is it all the guys from Boston do?
Right.
Like, they're like, I gotta have 3 jobs.
But
I gotta have fucking 3 jobs. It's wicked and it's retarded. I know you're not allowed to say the R word unless you're from Boston. They still say the N word in places. I'm like, what the hell? They say the F word. Not that I'm putting that on Calvin Kattar.
Oh, agreed. He seems like a great guy, but I know exactly what you're saying. He's just one of these overachievers, and something's got to give eventually.
And they say that shit everywhere. I'm not just putting it on Boston. I just know they're like...
But Kattar, when it comes to these lower level guys, somewhat lower level, because I think Feely's up there, it does get a little bit harder in there, and Fishy may not be that level in his last bout, where Ricardo Lamas is going to test you. The 19-7 fighter has lost a few times in the UFC, having tons of experience, losing to Josh Emmett TKO, then losing a split decision to Mirsad Bektic, but as of late, getting back on track and beating Darren the Damage Elkins via TKO 6 months ago. A lot of people counting out Lamas' chin in there. All the way around, Lamas is jack of all trades, master of none, but he's not a generic jack of all trades. He's high level in every one of these trades. Again, his weakest issue is going to be his chin, is the fact that he got knocked out a couple times, but Alpha Male tends to get Lamas' number a little bit here. He's fought a lot of Alpha Male guys, so specifically in that matchup, he redeemed himself against Elkins, but he can get dragged into brawls, can Lamas, at times, and they don't benefit him as much. And against Kattar, he can't afford to do that. Kattar, again, a good counter striker that'll set up a trap. So, gotta be hesitant in here, but as far as someone that can turn it into a long and dirty fight, Ricardo Lamas has every single avenue, and I would say if Lamas gets this to the ground, he's going to be able to exploit potentially some ground game on Kattar. We haven't seen much of it because he's been doing well with his takedown defense, but Lamas has good takedowns in there as well, has D1 experience. So pretty much I see it being fairly even on the feet. On the ground, I see Lamas' slight edge. He has some wicked submissions in there. I got Kattar decision, but I could change my mind depending on weigh-ins. 37 years old against 31-year-old. I'm not playing age too much into this. I see a lot of people going in on Kattar. I'm betting Kattar as well, or I'm picking Kattar. I don't know if the bet's there. I think there's a much closer fight than they have it. Slight favorite, minus 165. Give me Kattar decision. Who are you going to have in this fight and why?
I like everything you're saying. Lamas has every one of the tools to be a nasty underdog here. Yep. He should have the more ring IQ. He has the more experience against the better guys. He has, in my opinion, the way better ground game. If the submission occurs, it's because maybe Kattar follows Lamas down and Lamas can submit him. He's submitting like Oliveira. Like, come on.
Right.
But Ricardo Lamas is chinny, and it's that age. Like, I just think you never know when your body's going to shut off on you. And I feel like Calvin Kattar is like hungry, coming up, knockout power, good hands. All the things dangerous to me when you got this like sharp ass chin like Ricardo Lamas. I think Kattar does get it done here, and I think he gets it done by round. I think he lays the right trap in round 1 to get it done in round 2, and I got Kattar for the knockout finish. I I think Lamas could get a flash submission if he puts his brains into it and does work Qatar on the ground. But I'm not going to go heavy on this fight either. I think this fight is going to be so hot, so fast. Don't get a drink. I think it's going to be, if it lasts 5 minutes in the first round, it's going to be all 5 minutes worth watching. I think it's going to be such a fast fight full of points.
This could be a fight of the night contender. I'm telling you guys.
While both guys are going, it's going to be like a ping pong of points. Like ding, 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 ding. But I just think Qatar's going to outlast it.
Closing the show. You got to finich for him. I got a decision.
If you got Ricardo in his age, I think Ricardo wins this fight. He's just hitting that 37, and he's taking some brutal punches along the way. Yeah, Qatar knockout round 2.
On DraftKings, you're going to end up paying for the favorite $8,800 for Qatar against Lamas's $7,400. As far as you're concerned, he's going to pay that off by getting that finish.
If Josh Emmett can find it, I think Calvin Qatar could fight it.
I kind of agree. I agree with that. I do agree with that. But I'm also like, if this gets into a straight up wrestling match, Calvin Qatar has knocked off some good takedowns, but not Ricardo Lamas level of takedowns. So close one. Definitely must watch UFC. Another one on the books. This is a lady heavy night. We usually don't bash on we usually like to profile those. And we got a lot of boos on this card, and I got 2 boo-boos on the way.
That's my boo-boo.
That's my boo, and that's my boo. We got another 115-pound bout with Karolina Kowalkiewicz coming in against Alexa Grasso. Oh, I don't even know where to start. The Instagrams are on fire.
I have other boos on this card, too.
Exactly,
I already said
right?
that's my boo, but I got another boo coming. I got 2. I might got 3 more boos on this card. This is my boo heavy card.
How'd your kids, how'd your wife?
This card's called UFC 238, Home of My Boo.
Shot-town.
Oh my gosh, I do. I have so many boos.
So many. And this one is just hot off the press.
This is one of your boos. I don't even have nothing to say about
one. Both of them are. Both of them are.
Neither of them are my boos. I don't care about those. These are both your boos.
Definitely. So, with Grasso, she's coming in with a 10-2 record, only losing in the UFC to Ronda Marcos via split decision, redeeming that win against Ronda Marcos in a decision, and then as of late, losing to Tatiana Suarez in a submission rear naked choke a year ago. We haven't seen Grasso much in there. No many injuries that I saw. She's really just been taking back and working on training. From that fight, not really much to tell. She just dominated. We've known for Grasso that her ground game is definitely her weakest avenue. She's a high volume striker, kills you by 1,000 cuts, and doesn't necessarily have that power. She usually uses her cardio and wits to be able to win decisions in there, and this is exactly the type of fighter she wants to get in there. KK, 12-4, has only been losing in the UFC. Lost her first 2 in a row to Michelle Waterson, a decision. Prior to that, we weren't ready for it. She got starched by Andrade.
She got put out.
Worse than we've ever seen in there. I mean,
easily the worst 115 knockout of all time.
But since then, she's come back in against Waterson. I think that loss is going to look not as bad as her career keeps going forward. At 33 years old.
As Waterson's career.
Both of theirs, KK's and Waterson's, they're both kind of getting into their own.
Or Jessica Andrade, for that matter, is a champ.
That is a champ, definitely. But with KK, she likes to stay striking just as much as Grasso, but she's much more of a Muay Thai striker, where Grasso's that Mexican boxing, Andy Ruiz, heavyweight champion of the world. I mean, Lexus Grasso is going to be using that same style of boxing and just using volume, where KK's okay with that, but she will throw an inside takedown occasionally. I believe out of the 2, she's the one that shot more as far as takedowns are concerned. But she really doesn't like to do that. I think this does stay in that striking range. Lexus Grasso will throw limited strikes to the legs, but they're really naked as far as there's not really a big setup, and she doesn't block well off of them, so I don't like see them as much. She really just pretty much boxes and uses takedown defense. Against Karolina, again, doesn't have to worry about that. But I think where the biggest avenue that's going to be in the favor for KK here is the clinch. I feel like the Muay Thai striking, the knees inside the clinch, Grasso's also had a little bit of trouble with, and I think KK can keep up that pace. The volume is slightly there for KK in my eyes as well. I got the slight favorite decision. Give me Carolina to get back on track. I think this is the first time Grasso gets 2 losses in a row. She'll stick around at 115, but this stylistically for a match is just kind of Spider-Man-ish for Grasso, but the weaker Spider-Man. The old Spider-Man, not the new.
Tobey Maguire.
Exactly. Not the new one.
He's walking down the street with that weird, like...
with the emo song.
Oh, that was so uncomfortable. That ruined Spider-Man. That single-handedly ruined Spider-Man for a while. I never got into that Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, but that new Spider-Man, Homecoming, and then the new one... Home, something else with home in the name, but
right.
I'm down with that Spider-Man. I like that kid. Anyways, speaking of liking that kid, KK's my girl here. I never got on the Alexa Grasso bandwagon. I just haven't seen her really show out in the UFC yet. And the Tatiana Suarez loss, girl, no one's mad at you. Mm-hmm. No one's mad at you. That just wasn't right. Ronda Marcos, the split decision win, that actually says a little more to me than it probably does most Ronda Marcos, but she's the queen of the split. We always say it. She's going to go in there and Felice Herring decision loss.
Not so bad. That's so bad. She showed out sometimes.
If it's the KKK math, then Carolina beats her by a split decision. That's my UFC math if I'm going to go all by it, since Carolina beat Felice Herrig, and then her losses after that. Michelle Watterson is one of the dark horses in the division to actually wear the belt maybe one day. And Jessica Andrade, we saw her. She had a great slam.
She's a champ.
She had a great slam. But that was brutal on KK's part, and we all kind of saw it going that way. I don't think Grasso has that Jessica Andrade power at all, and I'm not really worried about her taking KK down. So I like what you said about the clinch knees for the Muay Thai striker over the boxer, and that is where it makes the difference, because this is MMA. You can't bring all that stuff in here. And Carolina Kowalkiewicz, in her last fight, she proved to me with Michelle that she wasn't ball shy. She kind of took a lot of strikes. I liked her kicks, and against Michelle especially, who's like super kick heavy, and that was good. That was a good KK match for me, even in a loss. So I'm going to go with experience here, stick with what I know. KK is my girl. What are the costs? I have to know before I...
We have minus 140 favorite, 8,400 for Carolina Kowalkiewicz, coming in against Alexis Grasso, 7,800 plus 110 underdog.
This is the right line. We don't always say that here, but I think this line's right.
I agree with that. I think this line is spot on. So,
which means if it's a good line, I'm staying away from it. That's usually like, I want to find the little tricks.
The mismatches for sure. A prop line. Fight goes the distance is probably a good one in there as well, but it's going to be minus money.
Draw, those little weird bets.
Right.
This is a good fight for that. I don't see either lady getting a finish here. I should totally see this being a point fight. This is right now the closest bet you have to something going to a draw if you want to throw $5 somewhere for like $3.50.
Not a bad option at all. Moving back to the 135ers, another bantamweight bout. We have Pedro Munoz coming in against
on this fight.
Aljamain Sterling.
Aunt Mama?
No, I did not. I did not. But I know exactly what you're saying. This is such a good fight. Fight of the night contender. Must-watch TV. Both of these guys are going to be contenders, are making their way for a run. Both of them on streaks. Both of them have had trials and tribulations. Both on 3-fight winning streaks. Here we go. Aljo Sterling is 17-3, only losing in the UFC, only losing to Marlon Moraes as of late in the last year, 5 months ago, but then rattling off a 3-fight winning streak, beating the people like Brett Johns, Cody Stamann, and Jimmy Rivera. He got 2 finishes in there via submission, using some of that wrestling finally in there. The 29-year-old, really Ray Longo protege, training with Al, training with Weidman. He's one of those Jersey boys. He's a realtor on the side. He is the breadwinner of his family.
Aljo's a realtor as well?
Yeah.
Everybody's a realtor out there.
Anyone who hangs out with Al Iaquinta, he's just like, oh, the test? Yeah, it's like $25. Come on, man. You're going to get a percentage. I mean, it's a course. You don't even have to graduate high school to be a realtor. Just throwing that out there.
You're looking for a career path? That's what we're here for.
Yeah, there you go. You're
sell a
welcome.
house.
Like and subscribe. That's all we ask.
Sell your first house. Make sure you leave a little card. Listen
Leave
to
a little
LaTB.
tip at LaTB if you get that commission money. So, Aljo, though, breadwinner 19 brothers and sisters. And he is the top dog. Yeah.
God
so
damn.
He knows he's winning. Just bought his mom a house with his last couple winnings. But off all that on the side, the
That
D1.
ain't a fam. That ain't siblings. That's foster care system. That's a big family.
That's a big family. That's a
big
small
family,
army.
even for Mormons.
Truth. He would put those Mormons to shame.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, Aljo being at the bottom, too, he's one of the youngest
That
ones.
poor vagina.
You know Aljo's tough. 'Cause they could take a beating in his family.
Damn.
So,
if you have siblings, though, you know I know, too.
Scrapping. Oh,
That's
hell,
what
every
makes
day
you
of the
tough.
week.
That's what makes you tough.
100% agreed. And Aljo, with his toughness, he got one of the worst knockouts we've seen in a long time, and has since then come in against beasts. And again, as you're saying with KK, not been ball shy. He's come in and gotten in there and been able to get back to his roots a little bit more. I feel like he's talked about it with that Moraes loss as well. He's like, I got used to striking because, again, I forgot what got me there, which was my wrestling. And now that he's using his wrestling against D1 wrestlers like Stamen and Brett Johns, who was this amazing ground guy, Aljo is all of a sudden submitting these type of guys and just really showing where that D1 wrestling and those strong hips like to come in. And Aljo has that. On the ground, he's got to be careful, though, against Pedro Munoz, who loves that guillotine. Pedro Munoz is coming also off of a 3-5 winning streak. His only loss as of late with a 18-3 record. His split decision loss to John Dodson, which is controversial. It was a low output fight. John Dodson, king of split decisions as well, so doesn't look that bad. But as of late, he's come off a 3-5 winning streak as well to Brett Johns. Caraway TKO, and then Cody Garbrandt, the former champ 3 months ago, finished him early in the first round. That was a banger. Pedro Munoz's striking has been getting much better, but he is just a jiu-jitsu guy who, it's really interesting as far as their career paths go for me, because I feel like Pedro Munoz is kind of following the Aljamain Sterling path, where Munoz is falling in love with his striking because he's knocked out a few guys, and he's like, oh, jiu-jitsu, that's good, but I like my hands now. And against a reckless Cody Garbrandt, that's going to work. Against somebody who gets angry, he walks into a punch, that's going to work. Against somebody who's eaten a knee and dabbed it up all over in there, Aljo said, I'm not getting in fights like that anymore, guys. I'm going to do what got me there. And he's been. So I think the game plan is use that D1 wrestling. Be careful with that guillotine. And on the ground, I think Aljo uses his wrestling in reverse and uses that position over submission. I don't think Aljo goes for the submissions, but he accumulates 2-3 takedowns, stays out of danger, lands his strikes on top, and wins a decision 30-27, 29-28. Don't get it twisted. This isn't a boring decision. This is going to be a very calculated, game plan oriented type of a fight for both guys. Either guy could get the finish in here at any point in time, striking or on the ground. They're both dangerous, both for different reasons. Give me Aljo, the slight favorite here.
The lines are on this too, huh?
The lines are spot on this. This is an amazing fight. Absolutely amazing fight.
I totally agree. I just think Aljo squeaks out everywhere a little better than Munoz to me. A little better everywhere. I think his ground game's better, even though it's wrestling over jiu-jitsu. I think Aljo's just a little stronger. I think he has a better takedown defense, so he decides where the fight stays. I think he has a little better hands. I think he has a little better chin. I know that Pedro's come in, but you guys know how I feel about Cody. I've always felt like Cody was the original guy to talk himself into the position. You want to talk about Colby Covingtons and people like that talk themselves into the title fight, like Kevin Lee's before they were kind of ready to be there. I always felt that way about Cody, and everyone's like, oh, he beat Dom. Yeah, a fucking rickety old Dom that we haven't seen fight since, have we?
Yeah, I think we've I could be wrong. He's been injured a lot lately.
He's just like the forever broken
True.
man. He's like Jack the Pumpkin King. Aljo, he's been putting in the work, fighting the toughest guys. I think Aljo is the dark horse of the division. Hashtag no racist. To me, I think he's the guy that you could put your money on at like good odds right now, like 7-1 odds that he'd be the champion of the 135. And I think you get your money back on that. I just love how well-rounded he is everywhere. He's not a specialist, and that is what I like to see nowadays. I like to see guys that I couldn't, D1 wrestling, but I also think he has killer hands. I think his kicks look good. I like everything Sarah Jiu-Jitsu's putting together, and I also, all that being said, I love Munoz. If he was fighting anyone else right now, I think he's one to watch. I don't put him out. I don't think he's one to retire yet. I still like everything he's doing, and I still think there's money to be made off Munoz, but Aljo, he is on fire. The boy is on fire. I'm putting Sterling, and I also see a decision. I just think he controls the fight for most of the time and has the better cardio. I think he wears Pedro out and slowly takes away that power. And if there is a finish, I also see it being Aljo. I don't see him getting caught in any weird submissions.
Oh, I could see that, and that's what makes this fight so fun. The slight favorite, 8,500 for Aljamain Sterling against Pedro Munoz is 7,700.
So many fights are that.
I know, so
many fights.
Because as far as DraftKings, I don't know if Aljo pays off 8,500. To me, he almost has to get a finish. That's pretty close to 9. And
I
this
agree.
Is a
I don't
close
think it's a good
fight.
one to put anywhere.
I think you could put either guy, but as far as the value on DraftKings, it's Pedro Munoz for 7-7. But again, it could be it's a split decision.
How many points does he average with?
85, but he's got a couple finishes in there.
But I still think he has fast hands, too. We could see him
Or wait, for who? Were you asking Munoz?
For Munoz.
Munoz, 85.
Yeah.
Aljamain Sterling, 72-point average.
I don't see Munoz getting finished. You might be right. Even on the loss, Munoz might be the one that if you had to fit a cheap person on your card somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, too close. The lines are too good.
Definitely too good.
And some fights just hurt my heart. Some fights just hurt my heart to say. And speaking of those fights,
coming up with the headlining preliminary bout on ESPN Plus. Check your local listings. This one's gonna be the last one before we get to the pay-per-view. And this is a profile fight. This is a title contender. Either one of these ladies is guaranteed the title shot at 115. That has been promised. We know that for a fact. And oh man, does it hurt, because Nina Asneroff is coming in against Tatiana Suarez at 115 pounds. We have Asneroff with a 10-5 record, slightly longer career in the UFC. She is attached to the hip of Mata Leon. She's in there with the champ. She's in there wrestling every night.
Are we allowed to say that, or is that patented by Conor McGregor?
Well, no, I don't. I think we're good with the champ. But if you're watching that Instagram page and that Twitter for Asneroff, that's also a hot feed. They're constantly posting on there. Do you see that? Nonstop? They're jumping out of boxes.
Like a fun couple.
They're underwear shots all day. They're just like me.
They seem like they're day drinking a lot.
Exactly. I feel like it's a relatable to my life. A lot of wine, a lot of sitting in my underwear, mooning the camera every once in a while. We getting down. They're having fun. But Nina's been taking it seriously, and that takedown defense has really come into her own as of late. She's been at top team for a long time. She's coming off of a 4-fight winning streak. Here at LaTB, this is my girl. She ain't my boo, but she's been winning me money more than most fighters because she's been an underdog in every fight. And I'm like, hey, guess what? She gonna win this fight. Hey, guess what? She gonna win this fight. But it's a tall order to fill here.
What's your Nina record?
Oh, man. It is definitely better than most in there. Let me open that one up. Nina, again, she's a black belt in Taekwondo. Her takedown defense was what her worst issues were. I am 4-2 with Nina Asneroff.
Better than me. I only went against her one time against Claudia, and I lost that. Every other time I've always picked Nina. I've never voted against her. So those first 2 losses before the Lioness, before she was Queen Lioness, she didn't do great for me. I do, we talk about some relationships, how they cost, and some relationships, how they make them better.
Right.
You're so right on. This relationship for both women have made them they are so great. Both women have stepped into their own together.
Definitely. Asneroff, at 33 years old, she's got that Taekwondo background. She definitely likes to stay on the outside, tends to be the striker out of the 2 on the ground. not really serviceable. That's been her biggest weakness. And in this match, that is really, really bad news. Because if it gets to the ground, she's going to have to get back up. And Nina traditionally hasn't been able to do that. Where she's really relied in the fight is not allowing her opponents to get her to the ground. And against Ronda Marcos, she did stuff, I believe it was like 6 of those takedowns. I think Marcos only completed 1 or 2 of those, which got her that decision win. And Marcos is a high-level wrestler in there. She's no Olympic alternate.
She's no
Suarez.
Claudia Gadelia, which her very next fight, she stuffed all those takedowns and did the same thing.
Exactly. But Nina, that's the way she's got to win this fight. She's got to keep it standing and striking. She's got to accumulate shots. She's got to punish Tatiana every single time she gets into range. She's got to stop that chain wrestling. And again, the Olympic alternator, the Olympic hopeful, has been wrestling most of her life. The 28-year-old is a perfect 7-0, dominating Carla Esparza 8 months ago. Prior to that, Alexis Grasso. Prior to that, Amanda Babacupa. And there she also got a win against Pereira in a decision. And that decision, she also was on the show. She won the show via submission. But that Pereira decision is something that is the fight that I kept going back to for Nina. That's the fight that if I was Nina and Leon, we're watching that fight, and we are using every single takedown defense in there and implementing that into our game plan. And I think that Nina can do that. I think that she can use a hard whizzer. She can stop a lot of those takedowns. And instead of on the ground trying to get up and opening herself up for position, Nina might just give up the position until she can explode out. That's if he calls and all that. But as far as the submission game with Suarez, she kills you by 1,000 cuts on the ground. It's her chain wrestling that gets you there. She shoots a double, goes into a single, right into an arm drag, right into back control. She's been fighting high-level opponents in there as well. Esparza being, again, great wrestling chops in there, and she just ran right through her. I'm going to go with Suarez here, but I think we were talking about lines being off. We were talking about all that. Striking-wise, I got to take a shot on Nina. That prop bet inside the distance for Nina for me is live. I know that she's not a power striker at that, but she does throw great kicks. She's not going to want to throw them here because Nina is going to, Tatiana's going to want to take her down. But I think
if I'm
great
the lioness,
punches.
or if you're the lioness,
right?
What do you say? What is your, not just the takedown defense for that, but what else would you really be working on for this?
It would.
I think it's such a clear plan. Not just that, like it's takedown defense,
sure.
takedown defense.
It's whizzers, and it's using forearms on the clavicles and framing off, and then using that straight right for Nina to keep Suarez off of her. Because once they get to the ground, it's match not done, but at least that round is lost for her because I don't really see Nina getting back up. But if it doesn't get there and Nina can keep this where she wants to striking, she has an advantage in the strikes.
If Nina can use elbows here at all, if she can take any piece of using, and I love that you said the framing, because if she can take those frames and turn them into easy elbows, if she can keep her off and even make her pay for 1 or 2 takedowns to just make Tatiana question the takedown, it could happen. And if I'm Amanda, who I'm far bigger than Tatiana Suarez, I'm working on this over and over again. I'm a black belt jiu-jitsu, so I can have her work on all this. And if you kind of see the slaying that Nina's done, it's against all wrestlers. Just boom, 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 taking them out. She kind of has the same game plan, so it's almost like the build up to Tatiana. And I might be totally wrong here. Nina called for this fight, no?
I'm not sure about that. But Nina, I believe, called for this fight, potentially, but it was like, I'll only fight her if next I get the champ.
Yeah, and maybe that's where Tatiana, it's like for Nina, it's funny that this is the next fight for the champ, where for me, I feel like Nina's earned the climb, whereas Tatiana hasn't yet, even if she beats Nina. Even though she's slaying people, it just feels rushed to me in a way that you could still build her up, and, why not make money all the way in between? But, gosh, I have Tatiana here. I'm giving Nina tons of credit. I think she can survive, and I just think ring IQ, she's just been in there too long, and I just think Tatiana's the real fucking deal. Like, she's such the real deal. I think that her chain wrestling, like, if you went against her, a 115 girl, if she was in this room right now, I think you'd be like, holy hell, this bitch is strong. Like, I already know you don't doubt her at all. You're not that kind of dude. But I think you'd actually even still be surprised at how strong she felt on you. Like, because you've been against some of the best wrestlers probably in at least the state of Oregon.
Yep.
So it's like to, have her, which state of Oregon, great wrestling plays probably some of the best wrestlers around. So, I'm not saying Henry Cejudo's, but I think Tatiana Suarez is of that level. I think her heart's of that level, and most importantly, something that she has that she represents to me in a way that not a lot of the other women do. She is a fucking calm cucumber, a scary, calm, calculated cucumber. I don't see a lot of women lack so much emotion in the ring, and that makes somebody very dangerous. I got Tatiana Suarez. This bums me the fuck out because I love Nina, and I think she could retire after this. I think she's kind of been ready to retire for a few fights, but been surprised that her game plan has clicked so much. I kind of think her and Amanda both ride off into the sunset together and start something new within the next 365 days. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the last times we see Nina in there. I love her. I love her personality. I love her relationship. But I'm ready to watch Tatiana grow, and I think Nina is one of the names that I will always respect more than most to be on her list, because Nina is one of the most underrated fighters that we've seen in the UFC.
I agree in the division specifically.
So all respect with Tatiana Suarez, but I agree with you too. That line's a little off.
Yep, that's what I'm saying. The line is off 9,500 for the minus 1,300 favorite.
And every time we see, 100% of the time we see the line this off, they lose. They cyborg out. They Ronda Rousey. It's so weird, unless it's John Jones, but that's what I'm telling you here. Tatiana has that kind of level mentality. She's that John Jones level mentality inside the octagon. And I know that's a lot to say, but just watch it. Take it and put it in your brain and watch it going forward. She's just next level lady in there, man.
So for the huge underdog, 7,600 for Asnaroff. If this goes to decision, Asnaroff is worth every cent on DraftKings. In a lost decision, she's worth it.
Unless it's kind of
just take down. Yeah.
Like, that's what I could
where she
see.
gets 20
I could
points.
even see a Michael Johnson Maul type scenario where we see one or two strikes where we're like, damn, Nina hurt her in the first, but it's still a total mauling.
Right. That's a good point. But I don't know. This is a tough fight as far as DraftKings. Do you feel like you're going to expose yourself much on here? Because I don't like
Nina,
paying up for that.
You can afford everybody else.
Right.
Do you even, dare I say, do you put them both on anything?
Nope. There's not long enough of a fight, and no way that output. Because if, again, Suarez implements a wrestling, it's going to be minimal points for, I like what you're saying that, with Asnaroff. But I think if Asnaroff
I just think the only way to afford Suarez anywhere, you have to play Nina. Like, Nina, you have to almost put on as a wash. Like, she's 0 points, but I'm planning on playing a whole bunch of people that are going to break 100. Sad. Yeah, so.
Cash game, not definitely that.
I like Nina. I could see myself playing both ladies. But I'm gonna be honest with our fans. It's an emotional play on Nina. I don't see her winning.
It's a heart play.
It's emotion.
It's a Celine Dion play.
It's that Bee Gees emotion taking me over. I was feeling it.
Get in there. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please, all we ask is a follow. Tell a friend. You can follow me, Emmanuel, at Zoltanite on Twitter, at WeakNeckBaby, for Cheney, at Lesbo and the Bean on that Twitter, at WMMA on Instagram, that YouTube, at Lesbo and the Bean is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Thanks, everyone who has been subscribing. This is going to be a profile pay-per-view. Please get it out there. You're getting it for free for a reason.
And maybe this is the one that you tell your friends to listen to because you're like, hey, I know you only listen to Brennan Schaub, or, oh, I know you only listen to Jack Slack, but maybe just try out LaTB, and they make me laugh, and they have some good information, and sometimes it's redundant, but every once in a while they agree, and sometimes I might even make $1, but don't tell YouTube. And don't tell Brennan Schaub because he might say, oh, LaTB's on YouTube selling DraftKings money.
I don't need that B-Shaw push. I don't need that B-Shaw bump.
But you know what else you can tell your friends about? Or you don't even have to tell them. Maybe they deserve a gift. Maybe you could buy them something nice and they won't know that you saved 15% using the code LATB15 at latherandcompany.com to get yourself something good. You could be smelling good. You could be tasting good. And yeah, all their stuff is so vegan and like earth friendly and earth conscious and stuff that even though it might not all taste good, it's all edible, even though it's for your skin. The sixth organ of the body, the largest organ of the body that no one takes care of.
Very, very true.
Getting all sun beat, getting all old. You got that old stinky balls and dick. Maybe you could grab yourself some salt scrub and clean it up.
Just a thought. Try it out, guys.
Yeah, you could try it out. Maybe you find yourself getting 2 blowjobs this week and you'll be like, holy shit.
Maybe if you don't wash your legs, you can put some soap on them.
Yeah. Maybe you could try washing your feet for a change like your grandma used to tell you. Take care of your feet. Why are you taking care of your feet? You got some old hammer toe. You got that old somebody's toes I saw this week. Oh gosh, I'm going to tell you guys. Speaking of hammer toe, oh, you use the code LATB15, latherandcompany.com, and support our sponsors because they support us, and that's how our sound keeps getting better, and we get stuff in the studio, and we're even happier to be here, and who knows, maybe 2 days become 3 days, and then soon we're sitting in your living room in a hologram. But jacked up feet, hammer toes.
Please, go on. I was waiting. I was on the edge of my seat.
Cowboy Cerrone got some jacked up feet!
He's got some of those Colorado hoofs.
He's like walking around in hell. He's like, he got little Satan feet.
Hey, boots are the high heel for men. Just throwing that out there. I know some ladies out with them heel feet. They exactly that bunion toes.
You got yourself some old Cowboy Cerrone boots. Would you get some? What animal skin would you get them? Would you get that vegan leather?
Only because I've worn them before, and I do not condone this. They were bought in the 70s. My old wrestling coach had some elephant skin boots.
Oh, damn!
They were the...
You went there. I was thinking, oh, he's going to say ostrich or something. Elephant skin, goddamn!
It was legal for him to have them because he was brought in from whatever. He had the paperwork, but he let me wear them for a reason or another. Goddamn. Most comfortable shoes I've ever worn in my life.
That seems weird. Why did he let you wear them?
I feel like I asked him because I was just trying out boots and figuring whether I like them. I was like, what? And he's like, here, try these out. So for like a wrestling tournament, I was running around. I feel like I had a busted up arm or something like that. And I was just...
Mine's an easy floor to pick.
Easy.
I'm going with Gator. If I have boots, I have Gator boots.
Definitely.
I'm Floridian, got my Gator boots. You lived here long enough in your life that you would be like, I could own these. I lived in Florida.
True.
These are my Florida
Especially
boots.
if that gator jumps over that fence. Fun fact, the gators can climb chain link fences. You're welcome. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Look that up.
That's true.
That's
Anyone that
true.
says they can't get up here, oh, they can.
Yes, they can.
They can. Them dinosaurs, they coming for you.
Talking about climbing over some fences, if you're going to have to do that to get to a friend's house, you better, because this pay-per-view is worth the charge. It's worth.
And when we figure out how to do it, we are going to do, especially for pay-per-views like this, we're going to figure out how to live or do something on YouTube of that nature. So we have a big audio audience that listens to us on podcasts of some form on their Android or Apple devices, which if you rate us on Apple, that's the biggest thing you should do. I don't know why everybody else feeds off that algorithm, but it's so important. If you like us, rate, whatever. But if you like us on YouTube and subscribe to us, even if you're a person that's not really on there, if we ever have a fight companion, we'd love you to join. And that's how we're going to be doing it. So,
in time. Big things were coming, and they here. You're welcome. The pay-per-view can entail that entire statement as well. At 265 pounds, we're starting off the pay-per-view with the big boys. We have Tai Tuivasa coming in against... I read it. Dang it, why did I have to read it? It is...
Look away.
Bagoy Ivanov. It's not with an L. It's with a W, it sounds. Bagoy Ivanov. Bagoy Ivanov. Against Tai Tuivasa. The 17-2 fighter
What's that duck
Ivanov.
called? The baby duck that you pull out of the egg and eat? Foie gras.
I thought that was the bouillon. The bouillon.
Oh, yeah, that's the different
It is
one.
the bouillon.
What's foie gras? Foie gras.
Isn't that like meat? Isn't that like meat paste?
But I feel like it's something that's...
It's like duck liver or something.
Yeah, or it's like It's the fetus of a sheep from the Me Too calf movement.
Fermented in a Chinese guy's pee for like 10 hours. Something crazy. Yeah. No, thank you very much. So, the 17-2 fighter, Ivanov, is coming in with a good record as far as UFC's concerned, losing his debut to Junior Dos Santos, but that doesn't look so bad. It went to decision, last beating Ben Rothwell. So 1-1 in the UFC. Rothwell, 2 months ago, was a controversial split decision. Rothwell coming off of that steroid suspension. Ivanov coming off of that PFL scene, getting a couple big finishes throughout his career. I believe his biggest win in there is to Sean Jordan, TKO, who was the former UFC contender, but really didn't go anywhere. He also beat Copeland, who I believe has recently been arrested again, Josh Copeland. But the heavyweight comes in there. His biggest win is in life. Because he was stabbed in a bar and like perforated a lung and it like almost got his heart, and he was in a coma for 2 months and lost like 70 pounds.
I was going to ask you about that on the show because I kept reading that he had life risking blah 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 at some point, and I was like, I'll just ask him about it.
He is being some sort of a Goomba in a bar. I don't know what the story is, but if you're getting stabbed in a bar, you're probably doing wrong things anyways. I'm just throwing that out there. Like anybody who's ever been like, I got stabbed once at a bar. Someone was being a dick. You might have been that guy. You might be a dick if you get stabbed at the bar. Just saying. And, well, that's ended up what happening. People said he wouldn't fight again.
Could you get stabbed at a bar for doing a shoey?
No, I think you're the life of the party at that point.
If you're
doing a shoey, instead of stabbing you, they're probably spitting in that shoe.
Yeah.
Instead
if you're so it's better to be the guy drinking beer out of his shoe than the guy getting stabbed in the bar.
Any day of the week.
Is the moral of this story, UFC 238.
You're welcome. The more you know. So even
ding, ding, ding.
all the way around, he's a heavyweight fighter, whatever that means. On the ground, he has some submissions. It's been against low guys. His background, I believe he's a Sambo background, but really he's mainly a striker, likes to keep it standing. Clinch fighter, likes to go up to the cage and use that dirty grinding strike. All of these guys have power in there, but he really just turns it into very limited 1-2s. He throws a flick jab out there, but really comes over with the right. He's really heavy set on that right hand as well, and really just gets lulled into spamming that same right over and over again. But he does have output, and on the ground he does have submissions. He does move well past his guard. He does go for side control, is constantly moving when he's on top, doesn't really go for that ground and pound much. He just really position you and make you uncomfortable. A little bit tougher to get off the ground, and that's the kryptonite of Tai Tuivasa. We know what Tai Tuivasa wants to do in there. The 10-1 fighter likes to strike, even if it's to his detriment. Even if he's getting outstruck to Junior Dos Santos, which they have a common opponent in. Tai got in there and got picked apart. He got a win in there over Andrei Arlovsky, Cyril Asker, Rashad Coulter, getting some nasty finishes, but that Coulter's no longer in the UFC. Cyril Asker's that's iffy as well, but also a limited heavyweight. Definitely a big win in Arlovsky. That was a controversial split decision. Tai keeps it boxing. He will throw those flying knees every once in a while, but he's kind of a Mark Hunt without as many tricks and maybe a little more explosive. That gas tank, though, Tai talked about it himself. He's like, yeah, I get tired in there. We've seen it in many of his even regional fights. He has gone to decision a couple times. He is a high finisher in there, but when he has gone to decision, he looks worn in that third round. That's where Dos Santos in that was his second or third round. That's where the knockout came. It wasn't one clean shot. It was the accumulation of Tai not being able to get the punches off, and then all of a sudden he's like, dang, I can't even throw any strikes, and it was a 4 or 5 punch combination that finally got him out of there. And I think that Ivanov can employ a dirty ass game plan and turn this into probably one of the worst fights of the night. I see this turning into a dirty ass split. Told you I was going to have a free bet. It's already posted on the boards. Give me Ivanov in a grinding 29-28 type of a bout. If he gets to the ground, I see Ivanov having a big advantage there. Tai doesn't get up off of the ground well. A lot of guys haven't been able to get him there, but I think Ivanov can do it. even if he doesn't, I think this is pushed up on the cage, and this turns into a heavyweight slot fest. Give me the underdog, plus 125. Who do you have in this fight, and why?
I have Tai Tuivasa here. I think the line's kind of dead on. I think he's just climbing up the rung where Ivanov's just kind of hit his high water mark. It's nothing against Ben Rothwell, but it's Ben Rothwell after the longest layoff in the world. He didn't look like himself in there, and it was still a decision that a lot of people, it was iffy. It was not as clear. I feel like it was one-sided. The Junior Dos Santos not getting finished by Junior is great, and Ty didn't get KO'd by him either. It was more of like he wasn't fighting back, and it was a kill him by 1,000 cuts, which lets me know Ty's chin's better, and he took the right amount of time off from the brutal war, and what makes you better than getting time in with a guy like Junior Dos Santos? I kind of think this stays standing, and I almost think it stays standing for Tai Tuivasa's benefit, almost like to build him up. I feel like the UFC, this is almost a setup fight. They have no interest in making Ivanov a really big guy. I think Tai can get 2 of the 3 rounds. I think it goes to decision as well. I know these are both big guys, but it's not because both of them doesn't have knockout power. It's because I respect both their chins. I have, all this being said, I've been wrong about Ivanov 100% of the time.
Interesting. What side were you on that Santos versus Ty? I feel like you were on the Ty side as well.
I think I was.
But it's all good. We're here to have fun. It's just
I'm
things that we
3-1
pick
with Ty. I've picked him every time.
Okay.
And so
That's
I've
not
only
bad.
been wrong with him once.
I feel like I've picked against Ty a few times as well. And it's always been because of that gas tank for me. So I think
I don't
turns into
hate
a
it
slot
as
fest.
bad. I just think he goes out there and puts a lot down and for a big guy in the first.
So do you think this is a decision heavy or 29-28? Because I see a dirty split 29-28.
I think 29-28. I don't see a 30. I think one guy is definitely at this size going to take a round off. And something weird, I like Tai Tuivasa's knees. I like his kicks better. I think he has nasty inside elbows. I think he's training with better people. If anyone could finish Ivanov, I don't know why not Tai Tuivasa, but I do think this is going to be a bloody, long, sweaty, hippopotamus kind of fight.
That's what I see. Definitely. For 8,700, are you going to be playing Tai Tuivasa on any of your DraftKings cards?
No, probably not. I don't see him getting a finish there. And I almost think he needs it for this size guy. He needs the finish because they're not laying that one
Heavy strike amounts.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. Even off the slight underdog is coming in at 7,500. If you need another underdog on DraftKings, this is somebody that I can think he averages 45 points in 3 rounders as far as DraftKings. I think if I'm not playing that other low person I was talking about earlier, Ivanov is going to be my actual straight up play on that.
And you have to be straight up, this is a dog or pass situation because the Ivanov, you're so right, he averages 45 points and he has a win-loss in the UFC. So those are we only have 2 matches that have been scored by DraftKings, and he averages 45 points.
He didn't get 25 points in one of those.
Even in a loss, he's getting 40 points. So he might not get a ton in the win, but for the price, 7.5, you might need that price guy on your card.
If we're going to want to be playing some of these higher guys. But as far as DraftKings, I think 10%.
I can see myself changing.
Interesting.
I don't know. I see Ty eking out the decision. But
it's a close
I like
one.
even on the loss, I like Ivanov there.
I agree even on the loss, DraftKings wise, 7,500. It's going to give you some of that room to be able to afford some of these higher priced guys throughout the night. It's still a fun one. Dirty ass split on the way. Almost guaranteed. Almost. Kind of guaranteed. Going back to the profile.
What a good fight card. The other reason this fight card's so good is because you could see yourself picking either person on any one of these fights we've talked about.
100%.
Any one of these fights, I could swap back into the other person. Which is crazy. Usually I have some that I'm like, do you even have your linchpin yet? Have we even said those words?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
no,
there's no one I feel like... Okay.
On to another profile one. 135 pounds. We have Jimmy Rivera coming in against Peter Yan. No mercy, Yan. He's been getting a little bit of heat on there on the Twitterverse. I've been having to stick up for my boy, Peter Yan. people are like, dang, he was calling out all sorts of guys off of fresh wins or losses, and they were getting all butthurt online that, man, come on, give him a time to break. It's No Mercy, suckers. His name is No Mercy. It doesn't matter if you're tired or just came off of a loss. He's calling everybody out. Like, I don't know what people don't get about it.
That they were getting mad at?
I believe actually it was Rivera. I believe because Rivera just came off of a loss and he called him out because Rivera's ranked, and Rivera took the fight because Jan was blowing up that Twitterverse, talking all sorts of gruff in there, and that's the fight game. It's what you got to do, especially this day and age. You gotta talk. And the Tiger Muay Thai disciple, 12-1, Jan has come off with all sorts of hype coming out of the regional scene. Came into the UFC and has been a big splash in the scene. He's definitely coming off of a big winning streak in general. I think he only lost his debut fight and has since then come off a 12-fight streak somewhere in there. But beating Hiroshito Ishihara, Sosu, Douglas Andrade, which that's a profile win right there. And last, beating John Dodson in a decision in probably the most damage we've ever seen John Dodson ever take in a fight. We have never seen John Dodson look that
old,
frazzled
because
and
he's old as hell.
He is old as
hell.
But still, as old as he is, he's never really been had a pace put on him that much because those little legs move fast backwards. And Peter was like, you want to run backwards? I'll run forwards. Okay. And was just able to really land some devastating shots. Wasn't able to get Dodson out of there, but that little Ninja Turtle jaw's known to be pretty solid. So in here, against Jimmy Rivera, Jan's going to need to use that well-roundedness everywhere, and he has that. Great gas tank, great striking on the ground. Is he Kazakhstani in there? Where is he from? Oskum, Russia. But either way, that Tiger Muay Thai scene is been giving us nothing but profile fighters for quite a while now. All the way around, I think Jan is just a fresher guy at 26 years old. He even has a little more power, where Jimmy Rivera, also well-rounded. He's coming out of that Tiger Schulman team, has a good game plan, 23-3, only losing in the UFC. Marlon Moraes, TKO, then getting a win in there as of late to John Dodson as well in a decision, which that was a much closer fight. And then last, losing a decision to Aljamain Sterling, where he was really out-wrestled and just out-positioned mainly. Jan can do that exact same game plan of Aljamain Sterling and actually put more of a pace on it. He just has that type of a treadmill, Dakishvili type of a game plan where he's in your face throwing strikes. If he's not throwing strikes, he's going for a double and then throwing strikes on the ground. He just seems like a little...
Shevchenko-esque? Is it just constant pressure, just good everywhere, well-rounded,
less
fast?
kicks, much less kicks than Shevchenko, much more boxing-oriented. But yeah, just somebody who's a handful everywhere. Doesn't look like he has tons of gaps even on the ground. I got Jan just keeping a pace, and I think that Rivera's been in here for a long time. At 29 years old, he looks a lot older in there than he has. I feel like I've seen him in the UFC a lot longer. He's had injuries that have kept him out for a while. Not that he's necessarily losing a step, because he's still about to be in his prime. But I feel like Rivera's much more one-dimensional game plan. Uses his wrestling in reverse to keep it striking. He's a good fundamental striker, but he falls into karate type of striking and really falls back on 2 or 3 at best 4-punch combination, but just really rinses and repeats his game plan, where Jan, you can see him evolve. If one thing's not trying, he's trying something else, and then something else, then something else. Where Rivera kind of sticks to the game plan, and if things don't go in order, he can get exploited, especially in that wrestling, and that's where I see Jan actually taking it over. I had TKO round number 2. I think Jan gets it in 3 now. I'm going to give a little more credit to Rivera, but I think that, again, just more check marks all the way around for Jan. Who do you have in this fight, and why?
I have Jan decision. I've gotten both guys wrong one time apiece. I've been pretty spot on with both of them, and I just think this is a changing of the guard. That's it. I think both guys are just swapping spots. It's not because I think Rivera should get on out of here. It's not because I think he's through. I just think Peter Jan's more well-rounded and better everywhere, and a little younger, a little stronger, a little hungrier. I love Rivera. We could see, if the only thing that you have that I can say is veteranship, that ain't great. That's like the damage shit. That's Darren Elkin shit right there. And I think Jimmy Rivera is, I'm not saying they're the same caliber at all. I just think that can't be the best thing you have going for you in the fight is how long you've been in the UFC. So I got Jan decision here. I just think he's going to continue to grow, and I think he's going to be a real dangerous man at 135 because Jimmy Rivera is a real dangerous man at 135. I just think they swap spots here. Peter Yan will become number 6 and Jimmy Rivera will become number 8. That's it. Decision. Tons of points.
I completely agree with that. I will say, just to hedge my bets a bit, Rivera does have a knockout potential in there because Yan has got, with as much pressure as he moves forward at times, he has been countered. He's eaten, though, De Silva's or Douglas in there's punch, which that guy's a murderous puncher. He does get wobbled, but that chin's held out so far. But Rivera could do that. On DraftKings, the decided favorite, minus 375 for Jan's, coming in at 9,300 against Rivera's 6,900. This is the type of guy that we need to be paying on for, and that's because his average is 104 points. But as we're saying with Dakishvili, I feel like on DraftKings, with the pressure, with the takedowns, with just the amount of constant movement he has on you, he can score upwards of those 120s, 130s. He just because he's constantly moving. Where Rivera is more, he tries to drag the pace down and slow the fights down a lot more. So I'm not going to be exposing myself much to Rivera and Yan. It'll probably be in that 40 type range of DraftKings exposure on my cards. Maybe a little more because I feel like I'm going to be playing these next 3 fights heavy.
I agree with you. I like Yan, though. I think Yan is low risk, high reward instead of low risk, medium reward. I don't see him getting finished by Jimmy. I know you just said you kind of do because with that pressure, I just think he's so well rounded on the ground that I don't see him getting knocked out cold, that even if he gets knocked out enough, he'll survive the round and come back and still be able to close out the deal. So I just think Peter Yan's definitely one of those guys I'm going to have in that like 60 to 75% range on my cards. I can't believe we're about to talk about this next fight.
On to the people's main event of the evening. Honestly, I could just pay for this fight.
Of the year. You know, Dustin and Khabib was announced. I don't think that's nearly as big of a fight as this one.
I totally agree with that. This is definitely one that, again, we didn't know we wanted, and it is just...
Are you kidding me?
Could be a main event on any other pay-per-view without a title.
I can't believe I never craved this fight before. Like, you don't always get what you want, but you get what you need.
We thought that Cerrone was going to move up to 70 and stay there.
And he always said himself that he didn't want to. It was Joe Rogan that kind of pushed the narrative that that's where he fits, that's where he fits, that's where he fits. But he's like, I never had a problem making weight, you guys. Like, I don't know why you guys are all, I don't want to stay up there. This fight's crazy.
Oh, this fight is crazy at 155 pounds. This is, the winner of this fight gets the belt, chance for that belt after Dustin Diamond Poirier and Khabib go at it.
So would Tony Ferguson be the first interim champ? If he wins?
No, because he's not 2-division champ.
I know, but he got stripped once.
But he has 2 belts.
He has 2 belts. He'd be the first guy to get 2 belts for the same division.
Yeah. No, I feel like there's been a couple other guys that have done this interim stuff, which is why we want to try to toss that all to the side, but it just makes for good photo ops. But, I mean, these guys' backgrounds, we know some of the most tenured fighters in there, especially Cerrone coming off that WEC. We touched on that a bit, being back in the day, just longtime veteran, Muay Thai fighter, all the way around, high-level competitor, jack of all trades, master of none, great cardio, gets better as the fight goes on. And actually in that, the 36 fighter, Dardo Cerrone, is actually, I feel a little limited in a 3-round fight. Should be 5, but I think that actually is an advantage for Tony Ferguson because we've seen it time and time again for Donald Cerrone. He is a slow first rounder. Been calling that every day. But as the fight goes on, he warms up, he gets better and better, and against fighters that like to get off fast, which Tony's one of those guys. It doesn't work in Cowboys' favor, but as of late, Cowboy Cerrone's only lost to Leon Edwards, who should have a title shot in there, decision, but last beating Perry. Then as of late, Hernandez, and recently, Al Iaquinta in a one-sided decision 4 weeks ago. I mean, Donald Cerrone didn't get touched up at all. Danger has changed his life. If you're watching the embeddeds and everything, he's doing it for the kid.
And so we're not talking about cave diving and driving snowmobiles and bull riding.
We're talking about the real Danger.
His child's name's Danger.
That little Cerrone in there has definitely put his mind back on track, and it's what he needed. It's where the recklessness left his Cowboy Cerrone's game plan, where he was literally drinking a beer and being like, shit, I'll take that fight. Win or lose, don't matter. Where now he's like, no, it does matter. And he's only picking fights that benefit him. And this is a hell of a fight to pick. He better be getting paid every cent, because this is a hard fight everywhere.
How do you even train for Tony Ferguson?
Put a blindfold on, get 2 drunken badgers and a freaking skunk and throw them in a den and
you know
go
that
at it.
lady that they pinned to the wheel and then her husband throws like knives
Yes.
at the wheel as it spins? That's what I feel like you'd have to do.
Well, they turn you on that wheel for like 15 minutes and then they have you wrestle someone. That's how you train for them. Then you work on ankle picks for against ankle picks, I guess. But Cowboy Cerrone on the ground off of his back, amazing triangles, amazing arm bars. Striking, Muay Thai, great intercepting knee. He's really improving that intercepting knee heavily, which can play heavy in this role with that pressure that Tony brings in. That's something that can really back Tony off, because Tony does like to come in and duck in for that. So even that chin is a little bit in jeopardy with Cerrone as well. Sets up amazing traps, has some of the best combination finishes against Rick Story and other people ever. But if there's a weakness in all of Donald Cerrone's game anywhere, it's not that chin, it's not those checking of kicks, it's that body shot. It's 100% that body. It's always been that body.
I forgot about it right now.
Thank
I forgot
you.
about it till you
That's
said
why
it.
you listen in the LaTB. That's why you pay attention.
That's why I show up.
That's why you like and subscribe. It is that body shot. But that's the biggest factor, that because I'm looking at this as many angles as I can, and in my head,
you had to go deep for that too. It's been a long time since we've seen that fight. But now that once you say it, it's like Matt Brown body. Like I could just...
Everyone, Pettis body. Everyone's like, oh shit, that body shot's open. And he's been working on that to cover that. But if we see it, Ferguson sees it. And Tony Ferguson, as we're saying, how do you get ready for him? Good everywhere. Striking, leaves himself a little bit open. Lando Venata on short notice is able to stun him. Other short notice opponents are able to stun him. What Tony does well is he always rolls with the punches, figuratively and literally, in his home life, as much as in the fight. He's had a lot of background and a lot of issues. And if you were listening to Eddie Bravich on Joe Rogan lately,
I can't believe it. But I'm glad. That's why I'm here.
He was talking and saying, hey, let's talk about Tony real quick. Tony's knee's been better. He says, I don't know about his home life because all we talk about is the ground game. Tony shows up. He's more dedicated than anyone I've ever seen. But I don't talk to Tony about striking because I'm not a striker. I'm a ground guy. And on the ground, Tony's looking better than he ever has. He rested that leg better than anyone I've seen. Eddie Bravo's saying that as far as recovery-wise, Tony Ferguson is one of the most educated guys on body recovery than anyone he's ever seen. As far as it, not just the knee.
He healed his knee in 4 months?
6 months, when it had like 160 stitches in it or something.
They were saying that it was like a 6 month to year injury and he healed it in 4 months or something.
Right, and fought in 6.
Yeah.
And took kicks. Unreal. So
took kicks from Pettis, who we saw beat
Target,
a karate master at 170.
Who beat Donald Cerrone with a body shot. Throwing that out there. So
that was just it. We just went around.
That's where you go first circle. So Tony Ferguson.
That means Tony Ferguson beat Stephen Thompson handedly. I'm just saying, if you want to do MMA math, I'm here with you.
I like it. But
that
Tony,
was MMA geometry. That was like taking it to the next level.
That was
you had to go across the circle. Yeah, perimeter.
Pythagorean theorem. So Tony Ferguson dances in there, flows, goes with it, has a game plan, sticks to it, is fluid, on the ground, amazing darces, which I've seen on the embeddeds immediately. The first things Donald Cerrone's training for is the darce. And that's where I want, and I know that Eddie Bravo watches embeddeds and everything because he says it. He's on that YouTube train just like we are. And he's just like, he's got to see that Cerrone is already starting to defend the Darce. So you got to say, okay, how do I counter that counter? So as soon as he defends that Darce, I switch it into something he doesn't see coming and gets a submission there. And that's the type of level I see kind of Cerrone being at. Not Cerrone, Ferguson being in at. But I think that that's actually set up, again, by that body shot. I think that it pays off early in the rounds. First and second round, and in the third, when we see usually Cerrone really getting in there, he's going to start to fall back a little bit, and it's because those body shots start accumulating. I got submission round number 3. I think that Darce, those body attacks accumulation adds up, but, I mean, this is a live wire fight. It could be a knee finish knockout. It could be a submission, Cerrone. It could be all sorts of things. I got Ferguson round number 3 submission, but it doesn't matter. I'm not going to be disappointed in this fight. This is why we watch fighting. Tell your friends, tell your wife, tell your kids, tell your pets. You got to watch this fight.
This could be amazing. One of the best fights of my lifetime. I'm kind of stunned that it's even happening. It hasn't really sunk in yet. And I'm going to say it. I'm going to get hate for it. And I might even get blamed for it. I still don't believe that the 3 fights that are up are gonna happen. I feel like something.
Don't you jinx me! Don't you put that even. Don't you put that even on me!
It's too good to be true. This fight is too good to be true. I can't even picture it. I can't even picture it happening. I don't want to see it go. I have Ferguson decision, but I just. The guys are too similar, in my opinion. I think Tony edges out a tiny bit on the ground, where Donald edges out a tiny bit on the kicks. I think Donald has a tiny bit more power, but Tony has a very creative combinations. I can actually see Tony getting an inside elbow that busts Donald's nose up. This fight is going to be bloody as hell. I think there's going to be, like a lot of Tony fights, where we're like, damn, Tony's cut up, and then once he's all wiped off, we're like, oh, that's Donald's blood. I think that, but Tony's creativity is what I see wins this fight, and I think we all feel this way. This has nothing to do with Cowboy and how much I love Cowboy and how much I love this fight and how much I didn't even know I needed it. But this has nothing to do with Cowboy's kid. Cowboy's legacy is cemented. Tony Ferguson versus Khabib. If Tony loses this fight, he never fights Khabib. And I think all of us need that.
Yes.
I think all of us need that fight. And so what I would like to happen here, Tony ekes out this decision. So in my heart, Ferguson decision, just because I don't want to see, but I think Cowboy could get finished in any number. Anything could happen in this fight.
Do you see Cowboy finishing it all?
I think he could get a flash submission or a
knockout as well.
Kick Ferguson's knee out from under him.
Or a straight teep to the face as well for against Tony.
Yeah, straight to the chest, to the little bird chest, boom. But I don't want this fight to go down, but Ferguson, I just feel like we're watching destiny here. I never seen something so beautiful, and nothing against Cerrone. I need this artist to finish his story. I need it to be the right story, and I think he needs it to be the right story. If you're as good as he is, and we can all admit he is, and how he's not just good, he's exciting. Like, he's one of the best guys to watch. He's beautiful to watch in there. If we can all admit he's this good, that mindset that you have to be that kind of champion, it might go fucking crazy if it keeps missing out on this shot. I can just, totally I can't relate to being this kind of artist. And I think, Henry Cejudo is in a different way, but I don't think just because Tony Ferguson doesn't have a gold belt doesn't take away that kind of champion mentality that he has. This is nothing against Donald Cerrone. I just think if Leon Edwards can out-decision you, Tony Ferguson can. He's more creative with his strikes. I think Ali Iaquinta, as much as I love him, I think he's one-dimensional and how he fights. And that Cerrone is the scariest Cerrone I've ever seen inside the octagon.
I
the
agree.
way he handled that and how big he looked compared to Allen there, that's nerve-wracking for El Cucuy to me.
Which El Cucuy is 6 foot against 6'1" Donald Cerrone.
No, I just mean
wide,
wide,
thickness.
his back, his everything. The weight cut looked good. Alexander Hernandez, I'm still like, who? Who? Like,
Agreed.
that fight is like,
Agreed.
everybody's all high on it. Mike Perry, we all love Mike Perry, but he's one of those guys who talked himself into that position more than anything. And then Yancey, to me, the best thing that Donald Cerrone's done in the last year and 3 months is the Leon Edwards decision, whereas Tony's a slayer, man.
So, did we forget, is this also a double boo hit?
It is a double boo.
Isn't it?
It
We
is
said we had a couple
too.
more, and this is one. What else?
Ferguson is for sure. Well, I didn't say. I forgot to tell you guys. Tatiana Suarez is my boo. That's my boo. That's my other boo. But I didn't want to say it because she's going against Nina, and Nina's my girl,
Yeah,
which is totally different than your boo.
Okay.
Like, oh,
True.
that's my girl.
She got a boo.
Yeah, she already got a boo, and I'm scared of her. But Ferguson is my favorite fighter. He's my favorite fighter. Donald's in my top 15. Tony is in my number 1 favorite fighter.
I can see why. And I don't know if I have an absolute one favorite fighter right now, but if there's a tie for first, I got like 6 people in it, and Tony Ferguson is up at the top of those. So, tons of fun, maybe less.
This information, if you're listening to it right now and you have your phone in your hand, you can go to our Instagram and there'll be a card up with all this information on it. So if you feel the need, like, oh, I'm going to have to rewind and listen back to whatever to see what they said because you want to put it anywhere,
right?
You could just go to our Instagram and look at all the cards because we're going to have it up there in all of our... And that's LATB_MMA.
I feel like that's the main event. I don't feel like we need to go on any further, honestly. But the betting lines, we still got to get into those. I'm just like,
you know what?
We have 2 more fights.
You just said main event, and I really thought, hands down, that was the co-main.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was the co-main. And then I was like, first favorite fighters fighting tonight, Tony Ferguson. And my second favorite fighters fighting tonight, Valentina Shevchenko. And then I felt like we were in the main event. Like, I really felt done. No. Longest episode. And this is the longest episode. This is those conspiracy guys long episode.
Oh, damn. Getting crazy.
Yeah.
It has been definitely a marathon in here, but that's because these are quality fights, people. These are, if you had a Rolex and someone had a knockoff Rolex, this is the good one. They at the pawn shop, this is what you're paying, worth your money. Telling you, people. I'm telling you.
Yeah, like if you're gonna have your friends over to make it like a Super Bowl of fights or something, This is the weekend. This is the one you spend your money on.
Definitely an amazing fight card. On DraftKings, the decided favorite right now is Tony Ferguson -160 against +130 for the underdog Cowboy Cerrone, 8,600 for Tony Ferguson.
And the odds makers
against 6,000 or 7,600 for Cowboy Cerrone.
Sorry.
I feel like I can bet 8,600 for Ferguson. I don't know if I'm going to put Cerrone on many spots. How do you feel about that on DraftKings?
I might put Cerrone on like 10%.
I like that.
And I might put Tony on like... Oh, is he my linchpin? Is Tony my linchpin?
I don't know if I can do that. This is too close of a fight. I feel like the line might be a little off here. Honestly, I feel like it could be closer than it is now. I think people are underrating Cerrone right now, and he's looking better than ever. But I'm also picking Ferguson in a finish. I think that I am going to be playing him in that 80 to 75% range for Ferguson because he averages 93 points at an 8,600. At his average, he's paying that off.
Yeah, it's medium risk, high reward.
Agreed. Definitely agreed. Well, maybe not
Tony.
high. Oh.
I love Tony, and the only reason he isn't my linchpin is this next fight. He will be on most of my cards, if not all my cards. Whatever I can afford for that price, how can you not get Tony Ferguson for under 9? That really should be what you're asking yourself.
Actually, a pretty good point.
Because I'm going to save. I mean, save you money.
One that you're going to have to save money for is for the co-main event with the profiled main ladies. You know how we've been feeling here for a very long time. If you ain't got no Valentina in your fridge, you ain't doing it right. Valentina all the way around Shevchenko.
And that's 2 opinions on something, too. That means you really should go out and get yourself some good hot sauce and play Valentina Shevchenko where you can.
Definitely. Against the Evil Eye, coming in here at 125 pounds. Evil Eye has a 14-6 record, getting a 3-fight winning streak against Kalenda Faria, Jessica Rose Clark, and Caitlin Chukagian, which Chukagian is her best win out of those. Just throwing that out there. Prior to that, she has a couple losses to Sarah McMahon, who's no longer in the UFC and losing outside of the UFC. And also losing a split decision to that bitch herself. I'm just saying. Lost to bitch Kohea. I'm fucking telling you people. The fact that it went to a decision with bitch Kohea should tell you something. Irene Aldana, the decision queen, just fucking finished her in there. So, I know we like to throw a lot of shade out here. I might not follow it, might not deserve it as much. Yes, she's a pro athlete. I don't like to disrespect people or anything. But you block me, you're going for blood. You're going for blood. So, I don't feel as bad. But, I mean, it's an uphill battle for she likes to wrestle in there. Her striking's got slightly better, but it's never really been a strong point for her. She really likes to use that head and arm throw, which usually gets her into trouble in there. And then she has a really low output as well. She is a boxer, not tons of power. She tries to kill you by 1,000 cuts, but really isn't able to do so. Her angles have been getting better, but still just not there. And against with the level of striker of Valentina Shevchenko, the Tiger Muay Thai, Peter Yan, all those guys in there. Shevchenko, we know what we're getting. High Muay Thai, heavy duty on the ground. She has submissions. She's got that killer instinct, and it's really just her mentality that really, like Suarez, is in that boat where it's just like, she just doesn't take a loss well. And that's good in a fighter, I think, honestly. It's like, no, she realizes what she did and tries to correct it and make herself a better athlete. She's recently, though, coming off of the most profile she's ever been in her entire life. She went back home and got the reception of a true champion. Her in president, she got the key to the city or whatever they get, the sash to the republic. I don't know what the hell they have. But she got
the wreath to the neck.
She got it though. And there's really interesting pieces on post championship letdown and whatnot. I don't know if I necessarily believe all those, but Valentina has always said that she's ready for all of the info. She's ready for all of that, and she's been meeting that test still. I do think the line has been overly inflated as well as that Suarez fight. But I gotta go with my girl, Shevchenko. I don't gotta break it down that much, fighter, because that big of a favorite, a lot of people see what we're seeing in here, and it's just a better all-around fighter everywhere with a killer instinct who goes for the finish and willingly goes. Ask the current 135, 145 pound champ how easy it was to get wins in there against Valentina Shevchenko. Because those are some of her hardest fought battles of all time. And that's someone who just knocked out the legend of Cyborg. So it's just Shevchenko everywhere here. I was being stupid on here and picking decision. I don't know why. I has even been known to maybe give up a little bit in there. I'm not saying she's a quitter, but I think that as the snowball goes, as it gets into this 4th and 5th round, Shevchenko just keeps running away with it. And you needed to save money earlier on the card because this one is going to end up paying over 100 points. Give me Valentina Shevchenko. TKO round number 4. I think it's an accumulation of ground and pound on the feet. I mean, wherever it goes, I just see Shevchenko having a check mark. Maybe in the throw itself, Jessica I can have a good throw, but on the ground, I goes for that position other than submission, and you can't do that against Shevchenko. You got to try to submit her.
The hip toss can't be all you got.
That's it.
That can't be all you got, especially against somebody like Shevchenko who uses her weight so well that if you throw that wrong, she's going to change. She's going to reverse that position. She doesn't have a bad ground game at all. Her win over Pena, I feel like Amanda Nunes, she didn't go to the ground with Shevchenko. Black belt Amanda Nunes didn't go to the ground. What I will say for both women and for Jessica I to stick up for her, and you can listen back to old shows if you want to hear me hate on Jessica I, but she's somebody I really enjoy now, and I like her at 125. I do think she's found her weight class, and Sarah McMahon is a very large 135er in my opinion, and actually she could probably be a more natural 145er. And Betch Kohea, that dirty Betch. She still is a bigger woman than Jessica I was. And Jessica I's body, she even looks more appropriate in this weight. I do think she's a good wrestler. I just think everybody always underestimates the Shevchenko game here, and they're not giving her the respect, which no offense to Chris Cyborg. Valentina Shevchenko's game everywhere except for power is ×2 on Chris Cyborg. She's literally better everywhere. Shevchenko might be the most well-rounded fighter in the UFC, or one of them. She has an underestimated ground game here, and I think her strikes make up for it. She's like a Lauryn Hill. She can rap and sing. Like, that never happens. Like, she gets no respect. It's still has no respect because everyone's like, this division's weak. That now when I'm watching people give Jessica Ai this kind of credit, I'm like, as many punches as Jessica Ai can take, she is going to have to take them. And she's not going to get knocked out. It's going to be dirty elbows, dirty knees. I think going in for any kind of takedown could get her in some serious trouble. I think she's slow. I think she's telegraphed. And Valentina Shevchenko is quick as hell. She quick as hell. She everywhere.
Are you talking about that video that I was throwing some shade at my girl Valentina, saying, "Oh, she sped up her fight, her tape study," and my girl Valentina came out with, "You must have slow eyes, puta." Thank you.
I know, and Ai's claim to fame is like, I was fighting at the wrong weight. So was Valentina, and she was winning.
I totally agree.
It's like the one other person, like maybe it'll work for a whole bunch of other 125ers, but it doesn't work here. That excuse doesn't work here. I think Ai has a lot of fights to win, and to me, the sad part is that I wish she would have built her up a little bit just because she deserved the fight. She deserves it. I mean, she's the biggest name in the division, probably. Like, she's been in the game the longest. I just don't think her game's improved that much. I'm not a huge fan of Caitlyn. I thought I should have easily had that win with ground game alone, and I was kind of disappointed in the whole thing. She looked good out there. I mean, as good as she looked for Ai, but Valentina's that next level, and people are like, oh, well, JJ, she's a 115er. I was fighting up, and I don't have JJ hands. I don't have those JJ hands. And neither does Jessica. Sounds like I'm saying I don't. So I have Shevchenko. I think she's actually going to finish it in round 3 because I can't see Jessica going into a championship round.
I ain't saying she's a quitter.
I don't think she's a quitter. I just think championship round's next level, and somebody that's been there with Amanda Nunes and JJ, the 2 best women fighters of all time. The only person that's been in those rounds with them is Valentina. I think that Jessica Ai is that. She's up there with that. I just don't think so. So nice knowing you, Jessica Ai, because I know where I'm about to get blocked on my Weak Neck Baby account.
Back of the line, Jessica Ai. That's where you're going. On DraftKings, you're going to end up paying for the humongous favorite, Valentina Shevchenko. $9,600 against Jessica Pink Eyes, $6,600. I absolutely know where you couldn't give it to me with a free Costco card or anything like that. I ain't buying none of that. Give me Shevchenko. I am going to need some of those cheaper guys that I was talking about earlier, enough to be able to afford Ai and maybe some middling guys in here. But I'm going to be probably trying to play Shevchenko. I'm going to say in 60%. No, I pretty much see a finish in the championship
Anywhere
round
I can
fight.
afford her.
Yeah,
Anywhere I can afford her, my fights will be so built around her.
She's going to be a heavy favorite as far as DraftKings lineups. Why? She's going to be on that winning card, right? She's going to be on that number 1 card regardless. She's going to be 59% owned on most of your cards, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and she'll probably be high owned by everyone. It's
with
not going to
Suarez.
be any kind of big surprise.
Right, with Suarez.
Yeah,
being
Suarez, my 2 girls are going to be skipping off with my Tony Ferguson, and then I'll just build around them. That's why I'm saying I could have Nina Ansarnov.
That's what I was about to say.
With Tatiana on the same card. That's why it sounds so silly to say it, but she's just the cheapest for the loss.
Definitely. So, finally, to the main event on this record-breaking LaTB event. We finally made it at 135 pounds. We have the double champ coming in against Marlon, the torso, Moraes, Magic Man himself.
That's true, too.
He's all torso. He is all torso. So, Marlon Moraes coming in with a 22-6-1 record, only losing in the UFC in his debut against
Do a
Rafael
Marlon Moraes
Assunção.
impression.
Hey, you know I'm gonna come win. Dana White, thank you. Little GSP-ish in there.
But that is kind of how it. He has a really high pick. Whatever. So Cejudo has a gold medal.
I'm gonna do it. It's Brazilian / high pitch, but either way, love Marlon Moraes. Great person. Love his mentality in there. Has a family just like everybody else. Really trains well, and other than his one loss in the UFC to Assunção, which was I mean, he fell into deep water coming in, being the PFL champ, getting tons of finishes, but Sun Tzu is a top 10 guy that he all of a sudden got mixed in there with. Then he redeemed that with a split decision win over John Dodson, beat Aljamain Sterling in, again, that amazing knockout. Then Jimmy Rivera in 10 seconds after that. Then redeemed himself against Sun Tzu in a submission choke that was set up by the strikes, but what I really loved about the 31-year-old in that spot is that he took everything away from that first fight, implemented it in the second one, and didn't even make it close. I actually had a Sun Tzu as well, thinking Sun Tzu's going to do what he did before, but Moraes was like, no, I ain't playing that game. I adapt, I overcome, I evolve, and that's what it needs, and that's what he needs to do in there in order to get after it. Fighting out of Jupiter, Florida, out of the Armory, which I believe has been named what, but Edson Barbosa, Usman trains in and around there.
Shit.
All those guys, that's where Moraes is out of.
Shit.
He's definitely got good coaching in his background, and in this fight, he needs to lay heavy on his striking, which he tends to. Has an amazing knee up the middle, can switch that from that Brazilian kick to just the knee to fight off a lot of takedowns. Actually, great takedown defense, but again, he ain't never wrestled a gold medalist. Take a drink. But I mean, it's definitely going to be a big wrestling difference.
I don't even feel like that's the only time we've said that in the show. I feel like even this show we've said he's gold medalist. Another drink.
Exactly. It's just anytime I hear gold.
That's so funny. I know it is. It's so.
He's leaning in so hard to it now. He's just like, I know people say gold, 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 and he's like, yep, still. So, all right, just saying. But Marlon Moraes, good takedown defense in there. Really added up well, but Aljamain Sterling's the best wrestler he's seen in there so far, and that's an Aljo who, as we were saying before, fell in love with his striking and tried to strike against a striker. Bad freaking news, which I feel like Cejudo might be a little set up for this. With that finish he just had over TJ Dillashaw.
Said too, yeah, he's doing that. You're so dead on. Like, like I've gone back and forth.
I've gone back and forth on this.
I feel like right now you talking though, I'm like, I got my rights all day.
I gotta put both sides on it.
Nasty old knee on the takedown, set up with some brutal. But I think he has better hands.
Oh, by far better hands. And again, good takedown defense in there. So Moraes, that's what he's got to do. We haven't seen him much on the ground. We know that he is supposedly a black belt and really nasty on the ground. But again, he's been able to get it done on the feet. He does have that submission over a Sun Tzu, which again, anyone submitting Sun Tzu, high level, but it did start off with strikes. I mean, that was a striking reason. Against Cejudo, champ, knocked out TJ, finished, I mean, by far best win he's ever had, Demetrius Johnson, after he lost to Demetrius Johnson. Really showed he got a game plan in there. He's been getting his boxing in there well, but the right body kick for Henry Cejudo has really been what he's basing his game planner off of. Really started to come in with that karate type of striking as well, being Sergio Pettis as a striker. As I'm saying, falling in love with his striking, telling people, like, you guys don't know. And that's what we tend to see be the worst thing for these guys is, again, they fall in love with their hands and all of a sudden, pink, they get knocked out. TJ didn't get that avenue because it was a quick finish, so they didn't go far into the rounds. TJ really didn't land anything. I mean, it was seconds. Is that because TJ was also a little more drained in his brain fluid? Potentially. Is it Cejudo having tons of power? I don't know about that, because traditionally, Pettis hasn't worn shots well, and Cejudo never really hurt him in there. Same with Demetrius Johnson, never really hurt in there. More outclassed. So if you think that Cejudo's going to go in there and finish him, it's completely wrong. Absolutely. This has to be a very well fabricated game plan that he can't get slow or sloppy on his takedowns.
Beat Henry Cejudo now?
I don't think so anymore. I think Cejudo's changed his game around to be well-rounded, that he has to go to those takedowns. He has to go to that ground game. He has to stay in his face, use that body shot. Cejudo can let his strikes and kicks go because he's not worried about the takedown against Moraes, where Moraes has to be worried about that takedown at all times, potentially. But one thing that I keep seeing in tape, I talked about it with that debut fighter, and I've seen with Henry Cejudo's every fight, as Demetrius Johnson, and every other fighter for that matter. Henry Cejudo leans with his head hard, where he's come off when he did rock Demetrius Johnson. It was the same thing. He landed that forehead and then came off a right with it, and that second punch finally stumbled DJ a little bit in there. But if we can see that, and I can see that Cejudo's ducking his head into there, Moraes has shown that he can throw that knee there in a heartbeat, and all of a sudden, dabbing it up in there. With that being said, I think the champ sticks together a good game plan. I think it's one of the most dangerous matches he can have in the entire division by far, with the amount of power and just explosiveness that Moraes has. The worst thing Cejudo could do is try to strike in there. If he stays away from this striking, I feel like this is going to turn into more of a grappling MMA match. And in that type of a match, I think Henry Cejudo can win. I got a decision on the incumbent champ, the current champ. This is one of the times we see the underdog or the challenger come in as the favorite, and I'm just seeing how better level fighters get beat by Cejudo. Give me Cejudo decision. This is a close one. This is a fun one. I should be talking myself out of this because I do see the knockout potential, but I think I'm going to be playing both sides of this fight because Cejudo has the potential for, again, 5 rounds, 120 type of range, if not higher, with all those takedowns and just pressure and knockout for Moraes.
Cejudo's just that next level athlete.
Yeah.
Like, I hate to say, I think Marlon Moraes is an A, and then Cejudo's the A+. It's just the difference. I like Marlon Moraes. He has that power and that I like fast legs, knees, and I could see Cejudo going down. But if we see it, Cejudo does too. And I just think his fast twitch muscle, I was watching him do his training footage. His body looks insane. It makes me wonder how he's ever going to get back to 125
Better than ever.
If you can compete with Demetrius Johnson on the level that we saw, the Marlon Moraes speed, I think you can. You're one of the few people who's seen it before. You've seen speed before.
Yep.
You clipped TJ in a fast amount of time. I think the longer the fight goes, the more dangerous Cejudo's going to get in it. That wrestling cardio is going to start to pay off, and we've seen Marlon Moraes get these, quick. Yes, it's really going to start to wear.
All 3 last fights haven't totaled a whole minute or a whole round.
The John Dotson win it's whatever to me.
Split decision.
Like, it's whatever. The Aljamain Sterling knee, that could have knocked out anyone in the whole UFC, that knee. That was a nasty knee. The Jimmy Rivera, it's like you're seeing him start to go for this head kick, set it. It's like, he's getting dangerous, which makes me the most skeptical for this scary fight.
Yep.
I like the Asan Salah submission, and that was actually what I was going to ask you. We've never seen Cejudo kind of in a place to be in a danger zone of submission, but I actually think we could see him in that here. And if you think Cejudo's wrestling is just far too good to even have to worry about it.
I don't think that the submission comes about with a game plan. I don't think Moraes is training to go to the ground with him. So if the submission happens, it's again off of a knee, off of a punch that rattles him, and then he jumps on the guillotine. So yeah, could he get a submission? Yes, but I don't see him shooting a takedown on Henry and then climbing to his back and getting a rear naked choke.
The longer the fight goes, the better Henry Cejudo is going to look in it, in my opinion. I think he's going to pull out the decision. I think it's going to make Marlon Moraes a better fighter. I can't believe Cejudo's an underdog here. This should be a closer fight, but every fight, there's so many close fights. They can't all be 800s. They can't all be 8-8. They can't all be even, Steven. So I know everyone wants him to lose, but I'm always, this is the other thing too, you guys know me. I'm always the last one on the train. So this could be that, but I'm on Team Henry. I think I get it. I get it.
So the slight favorite at minus 115, Marlon Moraes, the challenger, against Henry Cejudo's plus 125, 7,900 on DraftKings. I'm playing Cejudo. I'm playing both of these guys on my DraftKings because it is a 5-rounder. But I'm going to probably end up going more in like the 60, 70% range with Cejudo and 40% range with Moraes. I could even see a stack here potentially.
If you see it going all the way?
All the way,
yeah,
right?
It
As a
could
decision.
be one of those. It's like you almost have to play whatever you can if you want to even the shot at affording our girl. Valentina. It's kind of all boils down to how do I have to set my card so that I can play the hottest sauce in the 125 division. Don't get it in your eye. Don't get it in your eye.
That's the truth.
All that being said, and we have the fight called UFC 238, My Two Boos, Cowboy versus Donald. I almost feel like we need to make a GIF called My Two Boos.
Double boos.
Double boo. The double boo. Tony Ferguson, Cowboy Cerrone. So this is one for the ages. I'm so excited.
Record breaking. Thanks,
so
guys, for the ride. It was a fun one.
It was the longest episode ever of the show of LaTB.
But I hate to keep on dragging it out, but we were even potentially throwing around doing a Friday. This is that much of a pay-per-view that we might go live.
If anything happens, I'm going to tell you, we're probably going to do something Friday because we know we got to watch weigh-ins.
Yep.
And we'll let the weigh-ins happen. We're going to come back at you, even if it's a 15-minute show, but it's not going to be dropped on the podcast. So this is where you kind of want to try the YouTube out because we might need to talk about things. We might need to... This is almost too good to be true.
Agreed.
It's almost too good to be true, and I don't want to think that way, but we'll see. So thank you again. XOXO. See you soon.
LaTB.